Let me ask you something. Why are most people so weak? Why do they crumble under pressure? Why do they make excuses, whine about life being unfair, and break down the moment things get hard? I used to be like that. Software fragile, easily shaken by setbacks, insults and failures. Every little problem felt like the end of the world. If someone disrespected me, I obsessed over it. If life threw challenges my way, I hesitated, doubted myself, and searched for someone to blame. I was ruled by my emotions, fear, anger, insecurity, and it made me weak. Then I found Stoicism, and everything changed. I stopped caring about things that didn't matter. I learned how to control my emotions like a warrior sharpens his sword. I became immune to criticism, rejection, and pain. I stopped making excuses and took full responsibility for every single thing in my life. And in the process, I built an unbreakable character. And let me be clear, this isn't for the weak. If you're looking for feel-good nonsense, you're in the wrong place. But if you're tired of being fragile, if you're ready to become someone who nothing can shake, keep watching. Because today, I'm going to show you exactly how I used Stoicism to build an unstoppable character. And if you apply what I'm about to teach you, you'll never see yourself the same way again. Most people break when life gets tough. They panic, complain, and let their emotions control them. But a Stoic doesn't flinch. A Stoic doesn't crack under pressure. A Stoic doesn't waste time wishing life were easier. I know this because I used to be weak. I let problems overwhelm me. I let people's opinions control me. I let setbacks destroy my confidence. And then I realized something brutal. Life doesn't care about my feelings. The world isn't going to slow down because I'm struggling. It's not going to stop testing me just because I'm tired. So I had a choice: crack under the pressure like most people, or become unshakable. And that's when I started building something no one could take away from me: an unbreakable core, a mindset so solid that no storm, no loss, no betrayal, and no amount of pain could shake me. And today, I'll show you exactly how I did it, so you can do the same. The world doesn't care about your feelings. This is the first thing you have to accept. Look around you. The world rewards strength. It respects people who don't crumble. It listens to those who stand firm when everything goes wrong. That's why you see weak people constantly struggling, constantly miserable, constantly blaming life for their problems. The moment you understand that no one is coming to save you, your life changes. The moment you stop expecting things to be fair, you become powerful. Most people don't get this. They waste years complaining, waiting for things to go their way, expecting others to change, expecting the world to be kind to them. And when reality slaps them in the face, they break. A Stoic doesn't break, because a Stoic expects everything to go wrong. When things are easy, it's a bonus. When life is brutal, it's just another test. No complaints, no self-pity, just action. Most people want to be mentally strong, but they refuse to let go of their emotional weakness. They still let frustration control them. They still let anxiety take over their mind. They still let failure destroy their self-belief. That's why they'll never build an unbreakable core, because they still give power to things outside of them. A Stoic understands that strength doesn't come from outside validation. It doesn't come from comfort. It doesn't come from people clapping for you, telling you you're great, or making life easier for you. It comes from within, from developing the ability to face everything and remain unmoved. There's a reason why most people never reach this level. It's because they are too emotional. They react to everything. They let small inconveniences ruin their day. They let insults trigger them. They let rejection crush their confidence. And the worst part, they think this is normal. It's not. It's weakness. When you're unshakable, the world changes. Someone disrespects you. You don't care. A problem shows up. You handle it. You lose something important. You accept it and move forward. While others are wasting energy, panicking, crying, or lashing out, you are calm, and that calmness is the most dangerous weapon in the world. It's not about pretending to be strong. It's about becoming strong. It's about training your mind to be so solid that no matter what happens, you are still in control. So how do you build this? You have to start with this brutal truth. You are the only problem in your life. People love to blame others. They blame their parents for not raising them right. They blame the economy for their struggles. They blame their ex for their trust issues. They blame their boss for their lack of success. All of this is weakness. The moment you blame anything outside of yourself, you give away your power. You make yourself a victim. You tell the world, I am too weak to control my own life. But a Stoic doesn't do this. A Stoic takes responsibility for everything, even things that weren't their fault. Why? Because the second you take responsibility, you gain power. If something is your fault, that means you can fix it. That means you are in control. That means no one can hold you back but you. And this is where most people fail. They refuse to accept this truth. They want an excuse for why they are struggling. They want to be able to point at something and say, see, that's why I can't win. But you know what? That kind of thinking keeps you weak forever. Do you want to be unshakable? Do you want to be immune to life's chaos? Then kill the victim inside of you. Stop blaming. Stop making excuses. Stop waiting for life to get easier. Take full responsibility for everything. You will be tested. Life will try to break you. People will betray you. You will fail. You will lose things. You will experience pain that makes you want to give up. Most people can't handle this. That's why they suffer. That's why they are emotional wrecks. That's why they live in fear, because they never trained themselves to be strong. A Stoic expects hardship. A Stoic welcomes discomfort. A Stoic knows that every problem is a lesson, an opportunity to sharpen their character. You want to know how I became immune to life's chaos? I stopped running from difficulty. I embraced it. I stopped complaining when things got hard. I stopped panicking when things went wrong. I trained myself to stand firm in the middle of the storm. And when you do this long enough, something changes. You stop being like everyone else. You stop overreacting. You stop feeling sorry for yourself. You become dangerous. Because now, nothing can break you. No insult, no failure, no loss, no rejection, no hardship. You move through life with a calm, collected mind, while everyone else is losing control. And that is what makes you unstoppable. Most people think being strong means never struggling. They think an unbreakable person never feels pain, never experiences fear, never faces problems. That's nonsense. A truly strong person feels everything, but nothing controls them. Pain, let it come. Fear, face it. Failure, learn from it. Loss, accept it. Nothing shakes you. Nothing owns you. Nothing makes you crack. That's what it means to have an unbreakable core. That's why Stoics don't panic when things go wrong. That's why they aren't slaves to their emotions. That's why they don't crumble under pressure. The world is always going to be chaotic. That will never change. You will always have problems. You will always have challenges. You will always face things that try to destroy you. But who you are in the middle of that chaos is what defines you. Are you going to be like most people, weak, fragile, emotional, constantly looking for an escape? Or are you going to be the one person who stands strong, unmoved, unshaken, and in full control of their mind? This is the difference between being a victim and being unstoppable. And now, it's your choice. Most people think they are strong until life proves them wrong. They walk around feeling confident, comfortable, thinking they're ready for anything. But when real hardship comes, they collapse, they freeze, they get overwhelmed and start making excuses. And do you know why? It's not because life is too hard. It's because they have made themselves too soft. Weakness isn't built in one moment of failure. It's built through small, daily choices. The decision to sleep in when you should be up working. The decision to complain when things don't go your way instead of pushing through. The decision to avoid difficulty, to choose the easy path over the hard one. Every time you do this, you are training yourself to be weak. Every time you surrender to comfort, you are making it harder to deal with life when it punches you in the face. I learned this the hard way. I used to chase comfort like everyone else. I wanted things to be easy. I wanted results without struggle. I avoided discomfort whenever I could, and I thought I was being smart. Why suffer when you don't have to? But the truth was, I was setting myself up for failure, because the moment life stopped being easy, I fell apart. And I saw the same thing happening to people around me. They weren't failing because life was unfair. They were failing because they had spent years avoiding the very thing that would make them stronger. Comfort is the silent killer of strength. It sneaks up on you. It feels good. It makes you feel safe. But every time you choose comfort over effort, you are trading away a piece of your resilience. You don't notice it at first, but over time, you become fragile. You start needing everything to be convenient. You start expecting life to be smooth. And then one day, when things get hard, you realize you have no ability to handle it. That's what comfort does to you. It robs you of the ability to endure hardship. The world today is designed to make people weak. Everything is instant. Everything is easy. Food is delivered to your door. Entertainment is endless. You don't have to hunt for your next meal. You don't have to fight for survival. You don't even have to get up to change the channel. And people wonder why they feel unmotivated, uninspired, lost. It's because they've been trained to live without struggle. And when you live without struggle, you lose the ability to handle anything difficult. A Stoic sees this and does the exact opposite. A Stoic resists comfort. A Stoic understands that if something feels too easy, it's probably making them weaker. That's why Stoics seek out discomfort, embrace struggle, and deliberately make things harder for themselves. Not because they enjoy suffering, but because they know that discomfort is the key to growth. Most people don't want to hear this. They want to believe they can be strong without effort. They want to think they can build resilience while staying in their comfort zone. But this is a lie. Strength is built in hardship, not in ease. If you're not pushing yourself beyond what is comfortable, you're not growing. This is why I started making things harder for myself on purpose. I stopped looking for the easy way out. I forced myself to take the difficult path. I trained myself to handle discomfort like a warrior sharpening his sword. And I realized something. Everything I was avoiding was exactly what I needed. The things I didn't want to do, the challenges I was afraid of, the pain I was running from. That was where my real strength was waiting. I started waking up earlier, even when I didn't feel like it. I started pushing my body past its limits, even when it hurt. I started facing things I used to avoid. And little by little, I became stronger. The things that used to make me panic stopped bothering me. The things that used to feel impossible became normal. And the things that used to scare me, I started looking forward to them, because I understood that discomfort wasn't something to run from. It was the path to becoming unstoppable. Most people will never do this. They will keep chasing comfort and wondering why they feel weak. They will keep avoiding pain and wondering why they never grow. They will keep choosing the easy path and wondering why they never succeed. But I refuse to be like them. And if you are listening to this, then you have a choice to make. You can either keep doing what everyone else is doing, stay comfortable, stay soft, and stay weak. Or you can do what few people are willing to do. You can start training yourself to embrace hardship. If you want to be strong, you have to stop running from difficulty. You have to stop choosing what feels good and start choosing what makes you better. You have to stop making excuses and start pushing through. Every time you push past discomfort, you build resilience. Every time you refuse to give up, you develop discipline. And over time, those small choices add up. You become someone who doesn't break. You become someone who is immune to stress. You become someone who can handle anything. This is why the Stoics trained themselves to endure suffering. They knew that comfort makes you weak. They knew that strength is built by constantly testing yourself. That's why they practiced hardship, even when they didn't have to. They fasted when there was plenty of food. They exposed themselves to cold, to heat, to exhaustion, not because they enjoyed suffering, but because they knew that suffering was the only way to build resilience. Today, people have lost this mindset. They want results without effort. They want rewards without sacrifice. But that's not how reality works. Every great person in history became great through struggle. They didn't avoid pain. They didn't take shortcuts. They built themselves through discipline, hardship, and relentless effort. If you want to be different, if you want to be strong, then you have to make a decision. You have to decide that you will not be like everyone else. You will not seek comfort. You will not avoid struggle. You will not break under pressure. You will choose the hard path, the uncomfortable path, the painful path, because that is the only path that leads to greatness. And this isn't something you do once. This is something you do every single day. If you stop pushing yourself, you start getting weaker. If you let comfort creep back in, you lose your edge. That's why Stoics don't just embrace hardship once and then stop. They make it a habit. They train themselves to constantly resist the pull of comfort. The world will always try to make you weak. It will always tempt you with easy options. It will always tell you that you don't have to struggle. But if you listen to that, you will never be strong. If you give in, you'll never be unshakable. I know this because I've lived both sides. I've been weak and I've been strong. I've lived in comfort and I've fought through hardship. And I can tell you this, choosing discomfort, choosing the hard path, choosing to push yourself even when you don't feel like it, will change your life in ways you can't even imagine. Most people won't do this. They will stay comfortable. They will keep making excuses. They will continue living in a way that makes them weaker every day. But you don't have to be like them. You can make a different choice. You can decide right now that you will not settle for comfort. You will not be weak. You will not break. This war against softness never ends. Every day you have a battle to fight. Every day you have a choice to make. Will you take the easy way? Or will you push yourself? Will you surrender to comfort? Or will you choose strength? If you fight this battle every day, if you train yourself to embrace discomfort, then no matter what life throws at you, you will be ready. And when the rest of the world collapses under pressure, you will stand tall, unshaken, unbreakable, and unstoppable. Comfort is the disease that weakens people, but responsibility is the cure that makes them powerful. The reason most people are weak is not just because they avoid discomfort. It's because they refuse to take responsibility for their own lives. They blame their parents, their past, their circumstances, their bad luck. They make excuses for why they are stuck, why they failed, why things aren't going their way. But here's the brutal truth. Everything in your life is your fault. Until you accept that, you will always be powerless. I know what it's like to avoid responsibility. I used to do it. I told myself that my struggles weren't my fault, that if I had been given better opportunities, I would have succeeded. I told myself that life was unfair, that other people had it easier, and every time I thought like that, I made myself weaker. Every time I blamed something outside of myself, I gave away my power. I was making myself a victim without even realizing it. But when I finally accepted full responsibility, everything changed. Taking responsibility is not just about owning your mistakes. It's about owning everything, every success, every failure, every problem in your life. It's all on you. The moment you stop blaming, the moment you stop making excuses, you take back control. And when you take control, you become unstoppable. Most people will never do this. They want to believe their problems are caused by something external. They want to believe that life is unfair, that they are unlucky, that someone else is to blame for their struggles. But that kind of thinking is poison. The more you blame, the weaker you become. Because if someone else is responsible for your failures, then you can never fix them. If something outside of you is the cause of your problems, then you will always be stuck waiting for something outside of you to change. And that means you are powerless. A Stoic never allows this kind of thinking. A Stoic takes full ownership of everything. A Stoic understands that even if something isn't their fault, it is still their responsibility. Because if it affects your life, then it's on you to fix it. If you fail, it's your fault. If you're struggling, it's your fault. If you are not where you want to be, it's your fault. This isn't about guilt or self-punishment. This is about power. Because the moment you stop blaming, you gain the ability to change everything. Most people don't want to hear this because it forces them to stop hiding. It forces them to admit that the reason they aren't successful is because they haven't put in the work. The reason they are struggling is because they haven't taken the necessary action. The reason they are unhappy is because they refuse to take control. This is hard to accept, but it's the most freeing realization you will ever have. Because when you stop waiting for something outside of you to change, you start making real progress. Every time I failed in life, it was because of me. Every time I lost, it was because I didn't prepare enough, didn't take the right action, didn't make the right decision. And I can either blame something else and stay weak, or I can own it and become stronger. The more I accepted responsibility, the more I saw how much control I actually had. And once you see how much control you really have, you stop being a victim forever. People who refuse to take responsibility never improve. They stay the same because they are always looking for something else to fix their problems. They wait for motivation, for the right timing, for someone to help them. They waste years blaming and complaining instead of just fixing their lives. And when they look back, they realize they have nothing to show for all that time spent making excuses. But by then, it's too late. The reason responsibility makes you powerful is because it forces you to take action. If you believe everything is your fault, then you stop waiting. You stop complaining. You start doing whatever it takes to improve. And the more you take action, the stronger you become. Most people live in denial. They pretend that their failures are not their fault. They come up with stories to protect their ego. They tell themselves they are unlucky, that they didn't have the right opportunities, that other people had it easier. And they do this because it's easier than facing the truth. The truth is that they didn't try hard enough. The truth is that they avoided discomfort. The truth is that they made bad choices. But admitting that means admitting weakness, and most people would rather lie to themselves than accept reality. But reality doesn't care about your excuses. Reality only rewards results. And results only come when you take responsibility. The moment you stop lying to yourself, the moment you stop protecting your ego, you start seeing things clearly. And when you see things clearly, you can actually fix them. There is no one coming to save you. No one is going to fix your problems for you. No one is going to give you the life you want. If you don't take full ownership, you will never get anywhere. This is why Stoicism is so powerful. It forces you to stop running from the truth. It forces you to face yourself. And that is the only way to grow. I stopped feeling sorry for myself. I stopped blaming. I stopped making excuses. And the moment I did, my entire life changed. Because now, no matter what happens, I know that I am in control. If I fail, I know it's on me to fix it. If things go wrong, I know it's up to me to make them right. And that means I never feel powerless. I never feel stuck. I never feel like a victim. The people who go the farthest in life are the ones who take full responsibility for everything. The people who stay stuck are the ones who always find someone or something else to blame. You have a choice. You can either be one of those people who complains, who makes excuses, who never changes, or you can be the person who owns everything and takes control. This is not about perfection. You will make mistakes. You will fail. You will have moments of doubt. But as long as you take responsibility, you will always be moving forward. As long as you refuse to blame anyone but yourself, you will always have the power to fix your life. People will tell you that you are being too hard on yourself. They will tell you that not everything is your fault. They will try to make you feel better by letting you off the hook. But that is exactly what keeps people weak. That is exactly why most people never become strong, because they allow themselves to believe that they are powerless. If you want to be unbreakable, you must reject this kind of thinking completely. You must take full ownership of everything in your life. You must refuse to blame anything outside of yourself. No excuses, no complaints, just radical responsibility. This is not easy. But that's the point. Most people aren't willing to do this because it forces them to be honest with themselves. But if you can do this, if you can truly take ownership of everything, then nothing will ever stop you again. Most people will continue to blame. They will continue to avoid responsibility. They will continue to live in denial, and they will never change. But if you are still here, if you are still listening to this, then you already know that this path is not for you. You already know that you are capable of more. You already know that the only thing standing in your way is your own mindset. The moment you fully accept responsibility, you separate yourself from the weak. You become one of the few who actually takes control of their life. And once you do that, there is no limit to what you can accomplish. Because when you take full ownership, you gain full power. And when you have full power, you become truly unstoppable. Most people will never take full responsibility for their lives because deep down they are afraid. Afraid of the truth. Afraid of the weight of owning everything. Afraid of what it means to admit that their failures, their struggles, their shortcomings, all of it is on them. But fear is not the real enemy. The real enemy is what people do in response to fear. They run, they avoid, they escape. They search for ways to numb themselves instead of facing the discomfort head-on. And in that moment, they make themselves weak. There is no strength without suffering. This is what most people don't understand. They think they can become mentally strong while still avoiding pain. They think they can build resilience while escaping hardship. They think they can reach their full potential without ever stepping into the fire. But that's not how it works. Strength is not something you are given. It is something you earn, and the price is suffering. I used to run from suffering like everyone else. When things got hard, I looked for a way out. When I was uncomfortable, I wanted it to stop. When life threw obstacles in my way, I looked for excuses instead of solutions. And every time I did, I made myself weaker. Every time I avoided pain, I missed an opportunity to grow. Every time I looked for a shortcut, I cheated myself out of the chance to become stronger. But then I realized something. The people I admired, the ones who seemed unbreakable, who could handle anything, who moved through life with absolute confidence, they all had one thing in common. They embraced suffering. They didn't run from pain. They didn't seek comfort. They didn't break when life hit them. Instead, they welcomed every hardship as a chance to sharpen their character. They understood that the very thing most people fear is the thing that makes you powerful. So I stopped avoiding suffering. I stopped looking for an escape. I made a decision that changed my life forever. I would embrace the fire. I would step into the pain instead of running from it. I would use suffering as fuel to make myself stronger. And everything changed. The moment you stop fearing pain is the moment you become dangerous. When you no longer see suffering as something to avoid, but as something that forges you, you take control of your life in a way that most people never will. Because now, nothing can break you. Whatever happens, whatever hardships come your way, whatever pain you experience, you face it, endure it, and come out stronger. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid pain, but in doing so, they only make themselves more fragile. The more you run from discomfort, the more power it has over you. The more you try to escape hardship, the weaker you become. Every time you dodge suffering, you are missing out on the opportunity to build real strength. And when suffering eventually finds you, and it will, you won't be ready for it. This is why people fall apart when life gets hard. They have spent their entire existence dodging the fire instead of standing in it. They have built a life around comfort and ease, so when real struggle comes, they shatter. They don't have the mental endurance to push through because they have never trained themselves to endure pain. A Stoic understands this better than anyone. A Stoic knows that suffering is not something to be feared. It is something to be used. The fire that burns most people is the same fire that forges the strong. The heat that destroys the weak is the same heat that hardens those who refuse to break. This is why the greatest warriors, leaders, and thinkers throughout history have trained themselves to suffer. They have thrown themselves into hardship on purpose. They have exposed themselves to discomfort before it was forced upon them. They have put themselves through trials, not because they had to, but because they knew that if they didn't, they would never become strong. The modern world teaches people the opposite. It tells them to avoid pain, to seek comfort, to eliminate struggle wherever possible. And what has that created? A society full of people who crumble under the slightest pressure. A generation that needs constant validation, that panics over minor inconveniences, that has never trained itself to handle anything difficult. Strength is built in suffering. Every moment of pain you endure is another layer of resilience being added to you. Every hardship you push through is another scar that makes you tougher. Every trial you face is another step towards becoming someone who nothing can break. I started exposing myself to suffering on purpose. I stopped running from it and instead sought it out. I put myself in situations that forced me to endure. I chose the harder path every time because I knew that every ounce of pain was making me stronger. The more I suffered, the more I realized something that changed my life forever. Pain is not my enemy. It is my teacher. When you stop seeing suffering as something negative, you take away its power over you. When you welcome it, embrace it, seek it out, you become something most people will never be: indestructible. You stop being afraid of pain because you expect it. You stop avoiding hardship because you understand its value. And because of that, when life throws its worst at you, you don't break. Most people will never reach this point. They will always try to escape suffering. They will always complain when things get hard. They will always look for ways to numb their discomfort. And because of that, they will always remain weak. You have a choice. You can either live like everyone else, constantly dodging hardship, constantly searching for comfort, constantly running from the very thing that will make you stronger, or you can step into the fire and let it forge you into something unbreakable. Suffering is not going away. It is a part of life. You will experience loss, failure, struggle, and pain. You will face moments where you want to quit. You will be tested. The question is, will you be ready? Will you be hardened by the fire or destroyed by it? The answer depends on how you live every single day. Do you train yourself to embrace suffering? Do you choose the hard way, even when an easy way is available? Do you seek discomfort instead of running from it? This is the Stoic mindset. This is the difference between those who survive life and those who dominate it. Weak people avoid suffering, and because of that, they live in fear of it. Strong people embrace suffering, and because of that, they are immune to it. I made my choice. I chose to let pain shape me instead of break me. I chose to use suffering instead of fearing it. I chose to step into the fire instead of running from it. And now, there is nothing life can throw at me that I'm not prepared for. Most people will hear this and ignore it. They will go back to their comfortable lives, back to their habits of avoiding hardship, back to their illusions that strength can be built without suffering, and they will remain weak. But if you have made it this far, if you are still listening, then you are not like most people. You already know the truth. You already know that the only way to become unbreakable is to embrace the fire. So the question is, are you going to keep running from suffering, or are you finally ready to let it forge you? Suffering forces you to make a choice. You either let it forge you into something indestructible, or you let it break you. But here's what most people never realize. Suffering doesn't destroy them. Their own weakness does. The voice inside their head, the one that tells them to give up, the one that makes excuses, the one that justifies quitting. That voice is the real enemy. Most people lose the battle against themselves before they even start. It's not life that beats them down. It's their own mind whispering, "This is too hard. I'll start tomorrow. I can't do this." That voice is a parasite, feeding off comfort, feeding off laziness, feeding off fear, It grows stronger every time you listen to it. Every time you give in to it, you make yourself weaker. And the worst part? Most people don't even fight it. They let it control them and they don't even realize it. I lived this way for years. I let that inner weakling run my life. It convinced me to take the easy path. It told me that my failures weren't my fault. It gave me a list of perfectly reasonable excuses for why I wasn't where I wanted to be. And because those excuses made me feel better, I accepted them. I told myself I was trying my best, but deep down, I knew the truth. I was letting weakness win. I was letting that pathetic voice inside me dictate my future. And then, one day, I had enough. I killed the inner weakling. I stopped making excuses. I stopped justifying failure. I stopped letting that voice decide what I could or couldn't do. And when I did that, I took my first real step toward becoming unbreakable. The weak part of you does not deserve mercy. It will lie to you. It will tell you that you need rest when you don't. It will tell you that you have time when you don't. It will convince you that failure is okay, that being average is acceptable, that life should be easier. It will disguise itself as logic, as reason, as self-care. But its only goal is to keep you weak. And if you do not destroy it, it will destroy you. People who fail in life are not beaten by external forces. They are beaten by their own excuse-making, procrastinating, self-pitying minds. They tell themselves they can't do something before they even try. They talk themselves out of effort before they even take the first step. They convince themselves they need more time, more motivation, more preparation. But the truth is, they just need to shut up and execute. Excuses feel good in the moment, but they are a slow death. They trick you into believing you are still in control, when in reality, you are being controlled. They create an illusion of progress while keeping you stuck in place. The more you justify inaction, the harder it becomes to take action. That's why most people never escape mediocrity. They spend years lying to themselves, telling themselves that one day they'll change, that one day they'll start, that one day they'll be ready. And then they wake up at 40, at 50, at 60, realizing they wasted their entire life waiting for a perfect moment that never came. A Stoic does not wait for motivation. A Stoic does not wait for inspiration. A Stoic does what needs to be done, no matter how they feel. They have trained themselves to ignore the weak voice inside their head. When their body says, "I'm tired," they move anyway. When their mind says, "I don't feel like it," they do it anyway. When fear whispers, "What if you fail?" they silence it and take action anyway. I had to rewire my entire mind to operate this way, because for too long I let that weak voice make decisions for me. I told myself I needed more motivation, more energy, more confidence. But the truth was, I just needed to shut up and act. And once I started operating that way, everything changed. I stopped delaying. I stopped hesitating. I stopped waiting for the right moment, because I realized the right moment is the moment I decide to move. The inner weakling survives because most people do not recognize it as the enemy. They think it's normal. They think it's human nature. They think it's something they have to live with. But that's a lie. You do not have to live with it. You do not have to let it control you. You can kill it right now by refusing to listen to it. Excuses will always be available. There will always be a reason to wait. There will always be a justification for why you can't start. There will always be something that makes quitting seem reasonable. That's why most people fail. They listen to those excuses instead of killing them on sight. I stopped listening. I started treating that weak voice like an intruder, like something that was trying to rob me of my potential. And every time it spoke, I shut it down immediately. When it said, "You don't feel like it," I moved anyway. When it said, "You deserve a break," I pushed harder. When it said, "You're not ready," I proved it wrong. And the more I did this, the quieter that voice became. Most people think they need motivation to take action. That is pure weakness. If you need motivation, you are already losing. If you need to feel inspired to do what needs to be done, you are already being controlled by your emotions. A Stoic does not wait to feel like doing something. A Stoic does it because it needs to be done. The weak part of you will always fight for survival. It will always try to convince you to take the easy road. It will always offer a comfortable excuse. It will always tell you that it's okay to relax, to delay, to put things off for later. And the more you entertain it, the more control it gains. There is only one way to win. You have to eliminate excuses completely. No more, "I'll start tomorrow." No more, "I need to wait for the right time." No more, "I don't feel ready." You do what needs to be done, regardless of how you feel. Weak people are slaves to their emotions. They can only act when they feel like it, and because of that, they are never consistent. They are motivated for a few days, then fall off. They start something, then quit when it gets hard. They have moments of discipline, then slip back into laziness, and the cycle never ends. A Stoic breaks this cycle. A Stoic eliminates the option of quitting. A Stoic never allows emotions to dictate action. If something must be done, it gets done. If something must be endured, it is endured. If something is hard, it is embraced. I do not care how I feel. I do not care if I am tired. I do not care if I don't feel motivated. The work gets done. The actions are taken. The progress is made. Because I have trained myself to execute without hesitation. This is why most people will never be successful. They let emotions, excuses, and weakness decide for them. They let the weak part of their mind dictate their future. And because of that, they never take full control of their lives. If you want to separate yourself from the weak, you must become ruthless with excuses. You must treat them like poison. The second an excuse enters your mind, you kill it immediately. You don't negotiate with it. You don't justify it. You don't entertain it. You destroy it on sight. I made a decision a long time ago. I decided that I would never allow weakness to control me again. I decided that no matter what, I would execute. And because of that, I became unstoppable. Most people will never make that decision. They will continue to listen to the weak voice inside their head. They will continue to justify failure. They will continue to allow excuses to dictate their actions. But you don't have to be like them. You can kill the inner weakling today, right now. The moment you do, the moment you stop allowing excuses to control you, you become something most people will never be, truly unstoppable. Excuses are a disease. The moment you stop making them, you become unstoppable. But there's something else that weak people do that gives away their lack of discipline, their insecurity, their need for validation. They talk too much. They explain themselves. They over-justify their actions. They feel the need to convince others, to make sure people understand them, to gain approval for every move they make. And that is weakness. People who lack conviction feel the need to explain themselves. They think words will make them seem more competent, more respected, more understood. But in reality, the more you talk, the more you give away your power. The people who are truly in control, the people who move through life with an unshakable presence, the people who don't break under pressure. They do not waste time justifying themselves. They act, they execute, they make decisions, and let the results speak for themselves. I used to over-explain everything. I thought that if people didn't understand me, I was doing something wrong. I wasted energy trying to make sure everyone knew my reasoning, my logic, my intentions. But what I didn't realize was that the more I explained, the weaker I looked. I wasn't proving myself. I was showing that I cared too much about what others thought. I was trying to gain approval when I should have been unmoved by opinions. A Stoic does not over-explain. A Stoic does not feel the need to justify every action. A Stoic knows that strength is silent. Weakness tries to convince. Strength does not need to. The more you talk, the more you dilute your own presence. The more you explain, the more you seek permission instead of acting with authority. I started practicing silence. I stopped explaining myself. I stopped feeling the need to make people comfortable with my choices. And the effect was instant. I became more respected. I became harder to read. I became a presence that people took seriously, not because I spoke loudly, but because my silence spoke louder. Weak people think that talking more makes them more influential, but in reality, the opposite is true. The more you say, the more you reveal about your doubts. The more you explain, the more you expose your need for validation. When you constantly justify your actions, you are submitting to the opinions of others, and that makes you look weak. Strong people do not over-explain because they are at peace with their own decisions. They do not need external validation. They do not seek approval before taking action. They trust themselves fully, and that trust is unshakable. When you eliminate the need to explain yourself, you free yourself from the grip of public opinion. You become independent. You move through life on your own terms. Silence is a weapon. It makes people uncomfortable. It forces them to respect your presence without you having to prove anything. When you stop talking so much, people start paying attention when you do speak. Your words become more valuable because they are rare. Your presence becomes stronger because you are not constantly trying to explain yourself. Over-explaining is a form of insecurity. It's an unconscious plea for acceptance. It's an attempt to make sure that no one misjudges you, that no one misunderstands you, that no one questions your actions. But here's the truth. You will always be misunderstood by some. You will always be judged by others. And explaining yourself will not stop that. When I stopped explaining myself, I stopped seeking permission. I stopped caring if people understood me. I stopped feeling the need to make everything make sense to everyone. And instead of being rejected, I became more respected. Instead of losing influence, I gained it. Because people respect those who stand by their choices without apology. Over-explaining drains your energy. It makes you weak because it forces you to constantly defend yourself instead of simply acting. Weak people need their decisions validated before they feel confident in them. Strong people make decisions and stand by them without asking for permission. The more you talk, the more openings you give people to question you. The more you justify, the more people feel they have a right to challenge your choices. When you stay silent, when you refuse to over-explain, you send a message. I do not need approval. Stoicism teaches that what other people think of you is none of your concern. The moment you stop worrying about being misunderstood, you gain an immense amount of power. You stop reacting. You stop being pulled into meaningless debates. You stop wasting time defending yourself to people who will never understand you anyway. People who talk too much are predictable. They are easy to manipulate. They reveal too much about themselves, their insecurities, their thought process. When you embrace silence, you become unreadable. You become a presence that commands respect without having to demand it. I watch how people react when they expect an explanation and don't get one. It unsettles them. They expect excuses, justifications, defenses. When you refuse to give them what they expect, they don't know how to handle it. They are forced to confront their own assumptions. They are left with nothing but your unshakable certainty. And that is powerful. Most people talk because they are uncomfortable with silence. They feel the need to fill the space with words, to soften their presence with explanations, to make themselves seem less intimidating. But if you want to be truly unshakable, you must learn to let silence do the work for you. There is a difference between quiet confidence and silent insecurity. Weak people stay quiet because they are afraid to speak. Strong people stay quiet because they do not need to speak. One comes from fear. The other comes from absolute self-trust. Silence makes you hard to manipulate. It keeps you in control. When you do not react, when you do not over-explain, when you do not allow others to pull you into pointless discussions, you remain firm, untouchable, unmoved. And when you do speak, people listen because they know that your words are not wasted. Weak people blurt out their thoughts the moment they feel uncomfortable. They reveal too much about their emotions, their intentions, their mindset. Strong people understand that not everything needs to be said. Some things are best left unsaid. Some battles are won by refusing to engage. The need to explain yourself is an addiction. It is rooted in the fear of being misunderstood. It is driven by the desire to control how others see you. But when you truly master yourself, you let go of that need. You accept being misunderstood. You accept that not everyone will see things your way. And instead of wasting time convincing people, you move forward without hesitation. The ability to remain silent while others scramble to justify themselves is a mark of true dominance. It means you are no longer swayed by the opinions of others. It means you act with certainty. It means you are in full control of yourself. I used to think that silence was weakness. I used to believe that if I didn't explain myself, people would think I was wrong, that they would judge me, that they would misunderstand me. But now I know the truth. Silence is strength. Most people will never learn this. They will always feel the need to over-justify, to prove themselves, to explain every decision they make. And because of that, they will never be fully in control. But if you learn this lesson, if you train yourself to stop explaining, you will develop a presence that commands instant respect. You will gain a level of control over yourself that most people will never experience. And you will move through life untouched by the opinions of others. Most people will keep talking. They will keep explaining. They will keep giving away their power with words. But you don't have to be like them. You can choose to be different. You can choose silent strength. You can choose quiet conviction. And when you do, you will become something that few people will ever be, truly unshakable. Most people are prisoners, and they don't even know it. They are trapped, not by walls or chains, but by their own attachments. They cling to people who don't respect them. They hold on to outcomes they can't control. They are slaves to their own desires, their own expectations, their own need for things to go a certain way. And because of that, they suffer. They break down when things don't go as planned. They crumble when they lose something they thought they needed. They fall apart when people betray them, when life takes away what they thought was permanent. But nothing is permanent. And if you don't learn to detach, you will always be vulnerable. Attachment is weakness. It creates fear. It makes you desperate. It gives people power over you. When you are attached to something, whether it's a person, an outcome, or an idea, you give up control. You start living in a way that revolves around protecting what you're attached to. And the moment you do that, you make yourself easy to manipulate. I used to be attached to everything. I wanted things to go my way. I wanted people to see me a certain way. I wanted life to be fair, to reward my effort, to give me what I thought I deserved. But the more I clung to those expectations, the more I suffered. Every time things didn't go the way I wanted, I felt frustration, anger, disappointment. Every time I lost something I valued, I felt like a part of me was being ripped away. And every time people let me down, I let it affect me more than it should have. But then I realized something. The problem wasn't the world. The problem wasn't other people. The problem wasn't bad luck. The problem was my attachment. I was suffering because I expected things to last. I was suffering because I believed I needed things that I didn't actually need. I was suffering because I was holding on instead of letting go. A Stoic does not hold on. A Stoic does not chase. A Stoic does not depend on anything external for peace. The moment you detach from everything, you become free. You become immune to manipulation. You become indifferent to loss. You move through life untouched by disappointment because you have already accepted that nothing is yours to keep. Most people will never understand this. They will always be ruled by their attachments. They will always be controlled by their desires. They will always live in fear. Fear of losing what they love. Fear of failing. Fear of things not going the way they want. But a Stoic accepts everything and clings to nothing. When you let go of attachment, you stop fearing loss. And when you stop fearing loss, you become unbreakable. People will try to control you by making you attached. They will try to make you desperate for their approval. They will try to make you dependent on their presence. They will try to make you need something from them so that they can hold power over you. And if you are attached, you will fall into the trap. But if you detach, if you free yourself from expectations, if you eliminate the need for anything external to make you happy, no one can control you. I trained myself to detach from everything. I stopped needing people to act a certain way. I stopped expecting things to always work out. I stopped clinging to the idea that life had to be fair. And when I did that, I became something I never thought possible, untouchable. Loss no longer affects me. When things don't go my way, I adjust instead of complain. When people leave, I let them go without resentment. When life takes something away, I accept it without resistance. Because I've trained myself to understand one simple truth: nothing belongs to me. Most people are miserable because they expect life to be stable. They want things to last forever. They believe that their relationships, their money, their status, their health, their comfort, all of it will always be there. And because of that, when they lose something, they suffer. But a Stoic expects everything to change. A Stoic wakes up every day knowing that anything can be taken away at any moment. And because of that, when things do change, they are not shaken. Attachment creates dependency, and dependency is dangerous because it puts your happiness in the hands of something you cannot control. If you are attached to a person, they can hurt you. If you are attached to an outcome, it can disappoint you. If you are attached to a belief, it can blind you. But if you let go, if you train yourself to remain indifferent to what you cannot control, you become something most people will never be: completely free. I no longer fear loss because I expect it. I no longer try to control people because I accept that they will do what they want. I no longer waste time being upset when things don't go my way, because I know that life owes me nothing. This is not apathy. This is not emotional numbness. This is understanding reality at the deepest level. This is choosing to be strong instead of fragile. Weak people attach their happiness to external things. They tell themselves, "I will be happy when I get that job. I will be happy when I find the right person. I will be happy when people respect me." But what happens when they don't get the job? What happens when the relationship falls apart? What happens when people don't give them the respect they crave? They break down. They lose control. They fall apart because their happiness was never theirs. It was always in someone else's hands. A Stoic does not allow that. A Stoic builds a foundation of inner strength that is not dependent on anything external, whether they gain or lose, whether people stay or leave, whether life rewards them or punishes them. It doesn't change their inner peace. The world wants you to be attached. It wants you to chase things that don't matter. It wants you to believe that happiness comes from getting what you want. But that is a trap. The moment you tie your happiness to something outside yourself, you make yourself a prisoner. But the moment you break those chains, the moment you let go, the moment you train yourself to be content with whatever happens, you become something rare, truly untouchable. I had to learn this the hard way. I spent years chasing things, clinging to things, depending on things, and every time something didn't go my way, I felt like I was losing a part of myself. But I wasn't losing anything. I was just realizing the truth. Nothing was mine to begin with. When you detach from people, you stop fearing rejection. When you detach from outcomes, you stop fearing failure. When you detach from comfort, you stop fearing hardship. And when you stop fearing, you start living with absolute freedom. Most people are owned by what they are attached to. They are slaves to their desires, their expectations, their need for things to be a certain way. But a Stoic owns nothing, and because of that, nothing owns them. Letting go is power. Accepting everything and expecting nothing is power. Moving through life without attachment is power. Because when nothing can break you, when nothing can control you, when nothing can shake your inner peace, you become something that most people will never be, completely invincible. Attachment makes you weak, but caring about what others think of you destroys you completely. It is the silent killer of potential, the invisible chain that keeps people trapped in mediocrity, the reason why most never break free from the expectations forced onto them. The need for approval is the greatest weakness a person can have, because the moment you care what others think, you give them control over you. Most people live their lives as prisoners of public opinion. They make choices based on what will make them look good. They avoid risks because they fear judgment. They silence themselves when they should speak, and they speak when they should remain silent, all because they are terrified of how they will be perceived. And what does this lead to? A life of hesitation, a life of regret, a life where their actions are dictated not by their own convictions, but by the opinions of people who don't even matter. I was like this once. I thought that if I could get everyone to like me, to approve of me, to understand me, then I would feel secure. I adjusted my behavior to fit the expectations of others. I hesitated before making decisions, always wondering how people would react. And I thought I was being smart, that I was keeping the peace, that I was maintaining good relationships. But the truth? I was enslaved. The need for approval is a disease. It makes you second-guess yourself. It makes you weak. It keeps you trapped in a cycle of seeking validation, where your happiness depends on how others react to you. And if you don't kill this disease, it will keep you small forever. A Stoic does not care what people think. A Stoic does not seek approval. A Stoic is unmoved by praise and unfazed by criticism, because the moment you stop needing validation from others, you become invincible. I had to train myself to stop caring. I had to go through the brutal process of realizing that no one else's opinion has any power over me, unless I give it to them. And once I let go, once I stopped seeking approval, once I built my fortress of indifference, my entire life changed. Most people will never reach this level. They will always be slaves to what others think. They will always care about how they are perceived. They will always modify their actions to please people who, in the end, do not even care about them. That's the painful truth. The people whose approval you seek, they don't think about you as much as you think they do. You spend years trying to impress them, worrying about their opinions, shaping your life around their expectations, only to realize they never even noticed. And even if they did, their judgment was never about you in the first place. It was about their own insecurities, their own fears, their own limitations. Once you understand this, you stop playing the game. You stop filtering your words to avoid offending people. You stop holding back your actions out of fear of judgment. You stop hesitating because you're worried about how you'll be perceived. You move through life with pure, ruthless, unstoppable conviction. Weak people think they need approval to be successful. They think they need to be liked. They believe that if they can get everyone to agree with them, then they will finally feel secure. But that is the greatest lie ever told. Look at the strongest people in history, the ones who truly changed the world. Were they loved by everyone? Number. They were hated, they were ridiculed, they were attacked. But did they care? Number. Because they were too busy doing what needed to be done. The need for approval is the Achilles heel of weak men. It makes them hesitate when they should act. It makes them soft when they should be firm. It makes them dependent when they should be self-sufficient. A man who needs approval will always be at the mercy of others. A man who is indifferent to approval is unstoppable. The moment you stop caring what people think, you gain an unfair advantage over 99% of the world. Because while they are wasting time seeking validation, you are executing without hesitation. While they are trapped in their own insecurities, you're moving forward without fear. While they are adjusting themselves to fit in, you're living with absolute freedom. I had to test myself. I had to force myself into uncomfortable situations where I knew I would be judged, where I knew people would misunderstand me, where I knew I would face rejection. And each time, I taught myself to remain unmoved. At first, it was hard. That little voice in my head still wanted approval, still wanted to be liked. But over time, I killed that voice. I replaced it with something stronger, absolute self-trust. And once you develop absolute self-trust, you no longer need anyone's approval. You no longer care if people misunderstand you. You no longer care if they judge you, because you know who you are, and that is enough. People will try to manipulate you through your need for approval. They will use guilt. They will use social pressure. They will try to make you conform, to obey, to follow the crowd. But when you kill the need for approval, their tactics no longer work. You become untouchable. Weak people break when they are criticized. Strong people use criticism as fuel. Weak people try to be liked. Strong people focus on being respected. Weak people fear rejection. Strong people embrace being misunderstood. I do not care if people like me. I do not care if they approve of me. I do not care if they misunderstand me, judge me, ridicule me. Their opinions are irrelevant. Because at the end of the day, when I go to sleep at night, the only thing that matters is whether I respected myself. Most people will never understand this. They will waste their lives trying to be accepted, trying to be validated, trying to make sure no one ever criticizes them, and in doing so, they will sacrifice their own power. But you don't have to be like them. You can break free today. You can build your iron fortress of indifference. You can train yourself to stop caring, and once you do, you will never go back. The world wants you to care. It wants you to fear disapproval. It wants you to seek validation so that you can be controlled. But the second you refuse to play that game, you win forever. I chose freedom over approval. I chose respect over being liked. I chose self-trust over validation. And because of that, I am untouchable. Most people will stay weak. They will keep seeking approval, keep hesitating, keep modifying themselves to fit in. But if you are still here reading this, then you already know the truth. You already know that the only approval you ever needed was your own. The moment you stop caring what others think, the moment you kill the need for validation, you become a force that cannot be stopped. You become someone who moves through life with pure conviction. You become free. Most people will never reach this level. They will always be trapped by the opinions of others. They will always be held back by their fear of judgment. They will always hesitate because they are afraid of rejection. But you don't have to be like them. You can rise above it all. You can become something they will never understand. You can build yourself into someone who is completely untouchable. And when you do, when you finally stop caring what anyone thinks, you will realize something most people will never know. You were always free. You just had to claim it. When you stop caring about what people think, you take back your power. But there's one more test, one final step that separates the truly unshakable from the weak. How do you respond when people attack you? The moment you stop seeking approval, the world will push back. It will insult you, mock you, test you, and try to pull you back into its game. This is where most people break. They take the bait. They react emotionally. They defend themselves. And the moment they do, they lose. Insults are a weapon, but like all weapons, they are only effective if you let them hit their target. A true Stoic does not react to insults. A true Stoic does not defend, argue, or try to change the mind of someone throwing cheap words at them. A true Stoic smiles at mockery, remains indifferent to criticism, and turns their enemies into fools without lifting a finger. Most people fall apart when they are insulted. They feel the need to explain themselves, to fight back, to prove something. But that reaction is exactly what the attacker wants. They want you emotional. They want you defensive. They want to see that their words affected you. Because if they can control your emotions, they control you. I used to react. I used to take things personally. If someone insulted me, I felt like I had to prove them wrong. If someone mocked me, I felt like I had to fire back. But all that did was give them power. My reaction showed them that their words mattered, that they had the ability to shake me. And when you give someone that power, they will use it over and over again. A Stoic never gives that power away. A Stoic understands that the greatest counterattack is indifference. When someone insults me now, I smile, not sarcastically, not mockingly, but with complete and total indifference. I do not argue. I do not explain myself. I do not engage in their battle. And that silence, that refusal to be moved, destroys them. Weak people want a reaction. They live for conflict. They thrive on making others feel small because they feel small themselves. When you don't react, when you don't give them what they want, they become frustrated. They become confused. They start to look foolish, desperate for a fight that never comes. This is psychological warfare. When you remain calm while others lash out, you reveal who the weak one truly is. When you are unfazed by mockery, you show the world who is actually in control. Most people have never mastered this. They are controlled by their emotions. The moment someone insults them, they lose their composure. They fire back. They take it personally. They let a few words shake their entire mindset. And because of that, they make themselves easy to manipulate. I had to train myself to stay unmoved. At first it was difficult. My instinct was to respond, to prove my strength with words. But then I realized, true strength is proven in silence. When someone insults you and you remain calm, steady, and completely unaffected, you send a message far louder than words. Mockery only has power over those who fear judgment. A Stoic does not fear judgment. A Stoic does not seek approval. A Stoic is completely self-contained. And because of that, no insult can touch them. The moment you detach from your ego, you become immune to insults. The only reason an insult hurts is because your ego is invested in the opinion of others. The moment you stop valuing their opinions, their words lose all impact. I have been insulted more times than I can count. I have been mocked, ridiculed, and laughed at. But every time, I remained still. I let them talk. I let them throw their words like stones. And when they were finished, I gave them nothing. No reaction, no defense, no argument. And you know what happened? They lost interest. Because insults are only satisfying when they provoke a response. When there is no reaction, the attack collapses on itself. The one throwing the insult looks childish, desperate, weak. And the one who remains indifferent. They look untouchable. Weak people want to be understood. They want to explain themselves, to justify themselves, to make sure everyone sees their side. But a Stoic does not explain. A Stoic does not justify. A Stoic does not engage in battles that do not serve them. Most people waste years of their lives reacting to insults. They let the words of others ruin their mood, shake their confidence, and dictate their actions. But if you can train yourself to remain indifferent, you will develop a powerful advantage over everyone around you. You will never be able to stop people from insulting you. That is a battle you cannot win. People will always mock what they don't understand. They will always attack what they cannot control. And they will always resent those who refuse to play by their rules. But the good news? You don't need to stop them. You just need to stop caring. Most people believe that fighting back is strength, but that is a trap. When you fight back, you are playing their game. When you react, you are giving them control. But when you smile, when you stay calm, when you refuse to take the bait, you show them something far more powerful. You show them that their words mean nothing. A strong man is not one who wins arguments. A strong man is one who does not need to argue. A strong man is not one who destroys his enemies with words. A strong man is one who destroys his enemies by refusing to acknowledge their existence. Most people will never reach this level of control. They will always feel the need to defend themselves. They will always take things personally. They will always let the opinions of others dictate their emotions. But you do not have to be like them. You can train yourself to become immune. You can train yourself to stay unmoved. You can train yourself to see insults as nothing more than noise, background chatter that has no effect on you. And once you do, you will realize something that most people will never understand. It was never the insult that had power. It was always your reaction to it. When you remove the reaction, the insult dies. When you take away the emotional response, the attacker looks weak. When you remain still, when you stay above the conflict, you win without ever having to fight. That is true dominance. That is true control. That is the art of psychological warfare. Most people will continue wasting their energy on meaningless battles. They will continue getting angry over words. They will continue fighting fights that do not need to be fought. But you don't have to be like them. You can develop the ultimate advantage. You can become immune to insults, indifferent to mockery, untouchable in the face of criticism. And when you do, you will never lose another battle again, because you will have mastered the only fight that ever mattered, the fight against your own reactions. If you cannot control your own emotions, your own reactions, and your own sense of self-worth, then you are a puppet, dancing to the strings of external forces. If a single insult can shake you, if another person's approval determines your confidence, if a job, a title, a relationship, or a situation outside of you dictates your mental state, then you are not free. You are a slave in disguise. Weak people depend on everything but themselves. They need validation from others to feel worthy. They need reassurance to feel secure. They need the right circumstances to feel confident. And when those things are taken away, they collapse. Their emotions fall apart. Their identity crumbles, and they spiral into self-destruction. This is the disease of dependency, and it is the reason why most people will never achieve true strength. A Stoic does not need anything outside of himself to feel whole. A Stoic is his own source of power. He does not rely on people, jobs, status, or external stability to stand strong. He has built himself into an island of strength, untouched by the chaos of the world. I had to train myself to become this way. I used to believe that security came from the outside. I thought that as long as I had the right job, the right people around me, the right circumstances, I would be fine. But then I saw the truth. Everything external is fragile. Jobs disappear. People change. Relationships fall apart. Money comes and goes. And if your inner foundation is built on these things, you will always be at risk of collapse. Most people are emotional hostages to their environment. They feel good when things are going well and miserable when things go wrong. They let their circumstances dictate their state of mind. But if you allow the outside world to control your emotions, you are nothing more than a puppet. A Stoic refuses to live this way. A Stoic trains himself to be self-sufficient in every possible way, mentally, emotionally, financially, physically. He ensures that no one and nothing has the power to break him. This is the ultimate strength, to be completely self-reliant, to need nothing, to move through life with a foundation so solid that no storm can shake it. Most people live in constant fear. Fear of losing their job, fear of losing a person, fear of being alone, fear of being judged. This fear controls them, makes them hesitant, makes them weak. And why? Because they depend too much on things outside of their control. They have never built themselves into something that can stand alone. I trained myself to cut these weaknesses out. I asked myself, what do I depend on? What could be taken away from me that would leave me broken? And then I made sure that nothing had that power. I trained myself to be able to walk away from anything and anyone without fear. Not because I do not value things, but because I refuse to let them own me. Most people cannot do this. They cling to their relationships because they are afraid of being alone. They cling to their jobs because they have no financial independence. They cling to their reputation because they have no internal sense of worth. They need too much, and because of that, they are easy to control. A truly strong person needs nothing from anyone. This does not mean he isolates himself. This does not mean he rejects connection, but it means that his core is unshakable. If someone leaves, he is fine. If he loses everything, he is fine. If he faces hardship, he is fine, because he has trained himself to be enough on his own. I have seen people lose everything and collapse. They lose a job and they break. They lose a person and they spiral. They face hardship and they crumble. And every time I see the same mistake. They never built themselves to stand alone. They thought strength came from what they had, but real strength comes from who you are when you have nothing. Self-sufficiency is power. The more independent you are, the more control you have over your own life. The more you can survive without relying on external sources, the less fear you have. Weak people need others to feel complete. Weak people need money to feel secure. Weak people need stability to feel strong. But when you eliminate need, when you become your own foundation, you become unstoppable. I trained myself to let go of the illusion of dependency. I trained myself to stop thinking, I need this job, I need this relationship, I need this approval. I need nothing. I control my own mind. I control my own emotions. I control my own sense of worth. And because of that, no one and nothing has power over me. Most people will never reach this level. They will always feel incomplete unless they have something outside of themselves to hold on to. And because of that, they will always be vulnerable. The world will always be able to shake them, to control them, to dictate their emotions. But you do not have to be like them. You can train yourself to be completely self-sufficient. You can build your mind, your emotions, your finances, your life in a way that nothing can break you. And when you do, you will be feared, respected, and completely untouchable. Most people live their lives in a fragile state of dependence. They need too much, and that need makes them weak. A Stoic trains himself to eliminate need, to build himself into something that stands tall, with or without external support. This is the ultimate test of strength. Can you be alone and still feel whole? Can you lose everything and remain unfazed? Can you walk away from anyone and anything without feeling fear? When you reach this level, you will understand true power. And you will realize something that most people will never understand. Freedom is not given. It is taken, and it starts by needing nothing. If you are truly self-sufficient, then nothing outside of you can shake your foundation. But there is one final test that separates the truly unshakable from the weak. Can you remain calm when everything is falling apart? Most people crumble under pressure. They panic at the first sign of chaos. They lose control the moment something unexpected happens. And because of that, they make mistakes. They expose their weaknesses, and they let fear dictate their actions. A Stoic does not panic. A Stoic does not let circumstances dictate his mind. A Stoic cultivates a deadly calm, a level of control so deep that no crisis, no threat, no disaster can shake his inner peace. While others scramble, while others react emotionally, while others make decisions based on fear, a Stoic remains steady, composed, untouchable. Most people think panic is natural, but it is not. It is a learned response, one that has been programmed into weak minds by a lifetime of emotional dependency, lack of preparation, and a fragile sense of control. When people are not used to dealing with adversity, when they have never trained themselves to handle difficulty, their first response is always to break down. This is why they react with fear. This is why they make rash decisions. This is why they let emotions take over. They are slaves to their impulses. I had to unlearn this weakness. I had to train myself to remain calm no matter what. At first it was difficult. My body wanted to react. My emotions wanted to take over. My mind wanted to panic. But I forced myself to breathe, to slow down, to see everything as just another test of my control. And over time, something changed. I stopped reacting. I stopped feeling fear in situations where I once would have panicked. I became indifferent to external chaos. When things went wrong, I remained still. When people around me lost their minds, I remained focused. When the world seemed to be falling apart, I moved forward without hesitation. Most people will never understand this level of control. They will always let emotions dictate their actions. They will always be pulled by fear, by stress, by anxiety. They will always react first and think later. And because of that, they will always be at the mercy of the world. A Stoic refuses to live this way. A Stoic understands that the ability to remain calm is the ultimate power. When you can stand in the middle of a crisis, when you can face difficulty without blinking, when you can maintain absolute composure while others fall apart, you win every time. I have seen people break under the smallest pressure. They face unexpected hardship and they spiral into self-destruction. They get bad news and they lose all rational thought. They are confronted with a problem and they crumble into fear. And I realized something. The difference between the weak and the strong is not intelligence, it is composure. Most people lose control in two ways. First, they allow external problems to dictate their emotions. They react to bad news with fear, to stress with anxiety, to setbacks with frustration. They let the world determine how they feel. Second, they panic under pressure, allowing their minds to spiral into worst-case scenarios, letting fear override their ability to think clearly. A Stoic trains himself to do the opposite. He conditions his mind to remain calm no matter what happens. He refuses to let external events control his internal state. He slows his thoughts, controls his breathing, and makes decisions based on reason, not emotion. Most people let fear control them. A Stoic controls fear itself. This is the difference. Fear is a natural instinct, but it is not meant to dictate your actions. It is meant to inform you, to sharpen you, to make you more alert, but it should never paralyze you. I trained myself to view every crisis as a test. Instead of reacting with fear, I analyzed the situation. Instead of allowing panic to cloud my thinking, I forced myself to slow down. Instead of making decisions based on emotion, I chose the most logical path forward. And in doing so, I realized something most people never will. Panic is optional. Most people believe they have no choice but to panic. They think stress is an unavoidable reaction to difficulty. But that is a lie. You can train yourself out of panic the same way you train yourself out of any weakness. It is a skill. And once you master it, you will have an advantage over 99% of people. Weak people panic because they do not trust themselves. They lack confidence in their ability to handle difficulty. They are afraid of the unknown, afraid of discomfort, afraid of loss. But a Stoic is not afraid. A Stoic knows that whatever happens, he will handle it. And because of that, there is no reason to panic. This is true power. When others lose their minds, you stay in control. When others break down, you hold firm. When others make rash, emotional decisions, you move forward with cold, calculated precision. This is how wars are won. This is how leaders are made. This is how the unshakable separate themselves from the weak. Most people believe composure is natural. It is not. It is trained. It is built through repetition, discipline, and conditioning. If you do not train for control, you will never have it. If you do not test yourself in difficulty, you will never develop it. If you do not learn how to breathe through the storm will always own you. I had to test myself constantly. I put myself in stressful situations on purpose. I trained myself to remain still while the world around me was chaotic. I exposed myself to hardship again and again, forcing my mind to remain calm. And eventually, panic stopped being an option. Most people will never reach this level of control. They will always let fear win. They will always react instead of respond. They will always allow external forces to dictate their internal world. But you do not have to be like them. You can train yourself to develop the deadliest calm, a level of composure so deep that nothing can break it. And when you do, you will understand true strength. You will see that the real battle was never external. It was always within your own mind. Weak people will keep making excuses for why they panic. They will keep convincing themselves that fear is uncontrollable. They will keep falling apart under pressure and blaming their circumstances. But those who choose discipline over fear, those who train their minds to remain still, those who refuse to let the world dictate their emotions, they will walk through fire untouched. Most people will never learn this. They will always let fear lead them. They will always be slaves to their own emotions. They will always break under pressure. But you can rise above them. You can train yourself to be the one who never breaks. You can condition yourself to remain untouched by fear, unmoved by chaos, unshaken by anything that happens. And when you do, you will realize something most people never will. True power is not in fighting the storm, but in standing still while it rages around you. If you have trained yourself to remain calm in the middle of chaos, you already possess something that most people will never have: control over yourself. But true power is not just about staying composed when things fall apart. It's also about knowing when to walk away. When a Stoic withdraws, he does not do it out of weakness. He does not retreat out of fear. He does not disappear because he has been defeated. He walks away because he chooses to, because he knows his presence is a privilege, and because his absence speaks louder than words. Weak people chase. They beg for attention. They demand to be heard. They force themselves into situations where they are not respected. They stay in toxic environments, unhealthy relationships, pointless arguments, because they are afraid of leaving. They think walking away means losing. They believe that if they step back, they will be forgotten. But the truth is, only those who are weak fear being forgotten. A Stoic knows that his silence, his absence, his complete and total indifference to what does not serve him, is his greatest weapon. Most people live in desperation for validation. They cannot stand the thought of being ignored. They panic at the idea of someone moving on without them. They believe that their presence must always be felt. Their voice must always be heard. Their opinions must always be acknowledged. But this is weakness disguised as importance. The more you feel the need to prove yourself, the less power you actually have. A Stoic does not seek to prove anything. He knows that true power is not in forcing people to respect you, but in making them feel the weight of your absence. When a Stoic walks away, the world feels it. The silence is louder than words. The space he leaves behind is impossible to fill, and that is because he never allowed himself to be taken for granted in the first place. Most people give too much of themselves. They give their time to people who do not appreciate it. They invest energy into arguments that do not matter. They stay where they are not valued, hoping that if they just try harder they will get the respect they deserve. But respect is not given to those who beg for it. It is given to those who do not need it. I used to waste time trying to explain myself to people who had already made up their minds. I used to fight for relationships that were already dead. I used to stay in places that drained me, thinking that if I endured long enough, things would change. But nothing changed until I did. The moment I stopped chasing, the moment I withdrew my energy, the moment I made it clear that I would not waste my presence where it was not valued, everything shifted. The people who ignored me suddenly noticed me. The ones who took me for granted started wondering where I went. The same places that drained me became empty without me. Weak people stay where they are not valued. They fear that if they leave, they will be forgotten. But a Stoic does not cling to spaces where he is not appreciated. He walks away without hesitation, knowing that his absence will be more powerful than his presence ever was. This is the ultimate test of self-respect. Can you walk away from something even if your emotions beg you to stay? Can you refuse to engage even when your ego wants to defend itself? Can you step back even when every part of you wants to prove a point? Most people cannot. They are too emotionally invested in how they are perceived. They are too attached to the idea of making others see their worth. They stay in situations that drain them because they think leaving means losing. But the truth is, staying where you are not valued is the greatest loss of all. A Stoic removes himself when necessary. He does not give explanations. He does not wait for permission. He does not warn people that he is about to leave. He simply withdraws and lets them feel the weight of what they lost. Weak people announce their departure. They make dramatic exits. They demand to be acknowledged. They want others to know that they are leaving. But the strongest ones leave without a word. And that silence is the most deafening thing in the world. I had to train myself to detach, to recognize when my presence was being taken for granted, to see when my energy was being wasted, to notice when I was giving too much to people who did not appreciate it. And instead of fighting to be seen, I walked away. Most people do not understand this kind of power. They think strength is in fighting to be heard. They believe that if they just argue long enough, if they just stay long enough, if they just explain themselves better, things will change. But that is a lie. The more you fight for attention, the less you get it. The more you demand respect, the less it is given. The more you try to prove yourself, the weaker you look. A Stoic knows that the greatest statement is made in silence. The greatest power is in knowing when to walk away. Most people think that walking away is giving up, but it is the opposite. It is choosing yourself over people who do not value you. It is refusing to waste energy on battles that do not matter. It is recognizing your own worth without needing anyone else to confirm it. The world is full of people who stay in the wrong places for too long. They stay in relationships that no longer serve them. They stay in arguments that drain them. They stay in environments that weaken them. And why? Because they are afraid of walking away. They think their presence is what gives them power. But the truth is, the ability to leave without fear is the real power. Weak people try to control everything. They want closure. They want explanations. They want things to end on their terms. But a Stoic needs none of that. A Stoic simply chooses himself and moves forward. I stopped explaining myself. I stopped waiting for validation. I stopped thinking I had to prove my worth to people who had already decided not to see it. I removed myself from arguments, from places, from relationships that drained me. And in doing so, I found a level of peace that most people will never know. Most people are afraid of being forgotten, but a Stoic does not fear being forgotten because he was never desperate to be remembered. He knows that his value does not decrease just because someone fails to see it. He knows that true power is not in being seen. It is in being missed. A Stoic never forces anyone to appreciate him. He never begs for respect. He never fights for attention. He simply removes himself and lets the world feel his absence. And in doing so, he becomes more powerful than anyone who ever tried to silence him. Most people will never understand this. They will always stay too long, fight too hard, give too much. They will never learn that the greatest statement they could ever make is the moment they decide to walk away. But you do not have to be like them. You can train yourself to be the one who does not chase, the one who does not beg, the one who does not demand, the one who simply leaves when his time is wasted. And when you do, you will realize something most people never will. True power is not in fighting to be seen, but in making them feel your absence when you are gone. Walking away is the ultimate power move. It forces people to confront what they took for granted. It proves that you never needed them. But there is a deeper layer to this strength. You cannot just detach from people. You must also detach from illusions. The greatest illusion that keeps people weak is hope. Not realistic, grounded hope, but the kind of blind optimism that makes people passive, that keeps them waiting, that turns them into victims of circumstance. This is the addiction that destroys lives. People worship hope. They cling to it like a life raft. They tell themselves things will get better, that the future will fix everything, that if they just wait long enough, success, love, or happiness will come knocking on their door. This is a disease. It keeps people in dead-end jobs, in toxic relationships, in miserable situations. It makes them delay action, postpone responsibility, and refuse to accept reality as it is. A Stoic does not rely on hope. A Stoic does not sit around waiting for things to change. A Stoic kills the addiction to hope and replaces it with action. He sees the world exactly as it is, without exaggeration, without fantasy, without comforting lies. And because of this, he is never disappointed. He is never caught off guard. He is never paralyzed by waiting. Most people live in a fantasy. They tell themselves that things will magically improve, that luck will come their way, that if they just stay positive, the universe will reward them. This is a lie. The universe does not care about your feelings. The universe does not owe you anything. Sitting around hoping for a better future is the fastest way to waste your life. I used to believe in hope. I told myself that things would change, that situations would improve, that people would wake up and suddenly start treating me better. But nothing changed, because I wasn't doing anything different. And then I realized something. Hope was keeping me weak. It was making me wait when I should have been taking action. It was making me passive when I should have been decisive. It was making me believe that time alone would fix things, when the only thing that ever fixes anything is effort and discipline. A Stoic rejects blind optimism because it creates victims. People who are addicted to hope refuse to take responsibility for their own lives. They wait for something external to come and save them. They tell themselves that if they just hold on a little longer, things will magically work out. But nothing works out unless you make it work out. I had to break the illusion. I stopped hoping for people to change. I stopped waiting for opportunities to fall into my lap. I stopped expecting life to suddenly become easier. And when I did that, something happened. I became impossible to break. Because when you stop depending on hope, you become independent from disappointment. Most people live for the future. They tell themselves, one day I'll be happy. One day I'll have what I want. One day things will be different. And because of this, they waste the present. They are so focused on what they hope will happen that they never face what is actually happening. A Stoic lives in reality. He does not sugarcoat things. He does not rely on wishful thinking. He does not delude himself into believing that time alone will solve his problems. He sees the truth, accepts the truth, and acts accordingly. Hope is a drug. It numbs people to their current reality. It makes them believe that waiting is a strategy. It convinces them that as long as they stay positive, things will work out. But life does not reward hope. It rewards action. Most people waste their lives postponing action. They tell themselves they will start tomorrow, next week, next year. They convince themselves that they need to wait for the right time, the right conditions, the right motivation. But that right time never comes, because the right time is always now. A Stoic understands that waiting is weakness. There is no future where things automatically get better. There is no external force that will suddenly make life easier. There is only what you do today. And if you are not taking action today, then you are wasting your life. I had to train myself to kill hope, to replace it with certainty. Instead of hoping that something would happen, I made it happen. Instead of waiting for things to get better, I took control and fixed what needed fixing. And when I did this, I realized something. I had been wasting time on illusions. Most people are prisoners of false expectations. They hope their job will get better instead of looking for a new one. They hope their relationship will improve instead of leaving it. They hope they will become successful without putting in the effort. And because of this, they stay stuck. They repeat the same cycles year after year, never making real progress. A Stoic refuses to live this way. He does not sit around waiting for better days. He makes today better. He does not wait for life to change. He changes his life. Most people will never understand this. They are too addicted to fantasy. They want to believe that success will just happen, that happiness will find them, that things will work out on their own. And because of this, they never take control. They never do what is necessary. They never force themselves to face the hard truth. Hope is the enemy of action. I stopped trusting the future. I stopped waiting for things to align. I stopped wasting energy on fantasies that had no foundation in reality. And when I did, my life changed. Because instead of hoping things would work out, I ensured that they did. A Stoic understands that the only thing you can trust is yourself. The world is unpredictable. People are unreliable. Circumstances change. But what remains constant is your ability to act, your ability to adapt, your ability to take control. Most people waste years believing in something that will never happen. They tell themselves that things will improve without effort. They lie to themselves about what is possible. They live in perpetual delay, never acting, never deciding, never moving forward. But you do not have to be like them. You can break free from the addiction to hope. You can stop waiting, stop postponing, stop living in fantasy. You can train yourself to face reality with complete clarity. And when you do, you will realize something most people never will. Hope is a prison, and freedom is found in action. Hope keeps people weak because it makes them wait instead of act. It creates an illusion that time will fix things, that life will change without effort. But once hope is replaced with action, something else must be addressed: the wastefulness of unnecessary emotions. If you are not careful, your mind will keep you trapped in cycles of regret, longing, jealousy, and emotional indulgence. These are not real problems. These are luxury problems. Distractions that serve no purpose but to drain your energy and keep you weak. Most people are prisoners of their own emotions. They dwell on the past, wishing they had done things differently. They obsess over what they do not have, wasting energy on jealousy and comparison. They fantasize about things they cannot control, letting their emotions dictate their state of mind. This is weakness. A Stoic has no time for emotional waste. A Stoic does not entertain feelings that do not serve him. A Stoic cuts out all useless emotion with ruthless efficiency. Emotions are not the enemy. Uncontrolled emotions are. Weak people believe that because they feel something, they must act on it. They think that if they are jealous, they must let it consume them. If they regret something, they must dwell on it. If they long for something, they must chase it. This is a lie. Feelings are nothing but signals. They are not commands. They do not dictate action unless you allow them to. And a Stoic never allows himself to be led by impulses. I used to let emotions control me. I used to be caught in endless loops of regret, replaying past mistakes over and over. I used to compare myself to others, allowing jealousy to take over my thoughts. I used to waste time longing for things I did not have, instead of using that energy to build something real. And every single time, it led to nothing. These emotions did not help me. They did not make me stronger. They did not push me forward. They weakened me. They stole my focus. They kept me from acting. A Stoic does not allow himself to be paralyzed by useless emotions. He does not dwell on things that cannot be changed. He does not compare himself to others. He does not wish for something to be different. He focuses only on what can be done in the present moment. Anything outside of that is a distraction. Regret is one of the most useless emotions a person can indulge in. It is fantasizing about an alternate version of the past that does not exist. It is weakness disguised as reflection. Thinking about the past is only useful if it leads to immediate improvement. Anything beyond that is self-inflicted suffering. Most people replay mistakes, drowning in shame and self-pity. A Stoic takes the lesson, applies it, and moves forward without looking back. Jealousy is another disease of weak minds. It is an admission that you are focusing on what others have instead of what you can control. It is wasted energy, directed at something that does not belong to you, instead of being used to build something for yourself. A Stoic sees jealousy as a signal, not to complain, not to feel bitter, but to act. If you see someone with something you want, you do not waste time envying them. You either put in the effort to achieve something similar or you move on, but you do not indulge in self-pity. Longing is another emotional trap. Wishing for a person, an opportunity, or a situation that does not exist is the fastest way to weaken yourself. Most people waste time waiting for something or someone that will never return. They waste mental energy replaying memories, thinking about what could have been, refusing to accept reality. A Stoic never waits for something that is not real. He does not live in nostalgia. He does not chase illusions. He accepts what is and moves forward without hesitation. Most people are emotional hoarders. They collect feelings they do not need. They carry them everywhere, letting them weigh them down, letting them dictate their decisions. But emotions are meant to be used, not stored. If a feeling does not help you in the present moment, it serves no purpose. It must be eliminated. I trained myself to be ruthless with emotions, to recognize when a feeling was draining me instead of fueling me, to cut it off before it could slow me down. If something could not be changed, I refused to dwell on it. If something did not serve me, I refused to entertain it. If something was out of my control, I refused to let it affect me. Weak people cling to emotions like trophies, believing that feeling deeply is proof of their humanity. But this is a lie. Depth is not in emotional indulgence. Depth is in self-mastery, in being able to feel something and decide whether or not it is useful. If it is not useful, it is discarded. Most people think emotions happen to them. They do not realize that they have a choice. They do not have to be ruled by jealousy, regret, or longing. They can eliminate useless feelings before they take over. But they do not, because they have been conditioned to believe that all emotions deserve attention. They do not. A Stoic questions every emotion. He does not blindly accept every feeling that arises. He examines it, tests it, and determines its value. If it serves him, he keeps it. If it weakens him, he discards it. This is ruthless efficiency. This is true strength. I do not waste time wishing things were different. I do not waste energy comparing myself to others. I do not waste mental space replaying mistakes. I cut out every emotion that does not serve me. And because of that, I am free. Most people will never reach this level of control. They will always be trapped in emotional cycles. They will always allow jealousy, regret, and longing to take over. They will always believe that their feelings are stronger than their discipline. But that is because they do not train themselves to be otherwise. A Stoic does not have time for emotional waste. He does not indulge in weakness. He does not dwell on what he cannot change. He does not waste energy envying others. He does not sit around longing for what is gone. He's ruthless with his emotions because he knows that every ounce of mental energy wasted on weakness is energy that could have been used to build strength. Most people believe that cutting out emotions makes you cold, but this is a misunderstanding. A Stoic is not emotionless. He feels deeply. He just does not let his emotions control him. He does not drown in useless feelings. He does not give energy to things that do not serve him. He focuses only on what matters. And because of that, he moves through life lighter, sharper, and stronger than anyone else. This is the difference between those who waste their lives on emotional distractions and those who cut through life with precision. Most people will never understand it. They will always be slaves to their feelings, always letting emotions make decisions for them, always justifying their lack of control. But a Stoic knows that true mastery begins with ruthless efficiency over the mind. Weak people let emotions consume them. A Stoic controls what he feels, how he feels, and when he feels. He uses emotions like tools. He discards them when they serve no purpose. He does not hold on to unnecessary weight. And because of that, he is unstoppable. If you have trained yourself to cut out useless emotions, then you already understand something most people never will. Feelings should serve you, not control you. But there is one area where even the strongest minds break, where even the most disciplined people lose themselves: love, friendship, and loss. Nothing weakens people more than attachment. Nothing causes more suffering than clinging to things, people and relationships as if they are permanent. Weak people let their relationships define them. They tie their entire identity to love, to friendships, to the presence of certain people in their lives. And because of that, when those things change, when they lose someone, when love fades, when friendships end, they collapse. They cannot function without the people they once relied on. But a Stoic is different. A Stoic understands that relationships are meant to be experienced, not depended on. A Stoic experiences deep love, true friendship, and meaningful connections, but he never becomes a slave to them. Most people confuse attachment with love. They think that the more they cling, the deeper they care. They believe that holding on to people, no matter the cost, is proof of loyalty. But this is weakness disguised as devotion. True love, true friendship, true connection does not require attachment. It does not require fear of loss, desperation for attention, or the inability to be alone. A Stoic knows that people will come and go. Some relationships will last forever. Others will disappear without warning. Some friendships will stand the test of time. Others will crumble under the weight of change. And because of this, a Stoic does not cling. A Stoic does not beg. A Stoic does not fear losing anyone because he understands that every relationship is borrowed time. Most people are terrified of losing others. They fear rejection, abandonment, loneliness. They make decisions based on keeping people close, even when it weakens them. They sacrifice their self-respect just to maintain relationships that have already expired. They tolerate mistreatment because they think being alone is worse than being used. This is weakness in its purest form. A Stoic does not operate this way. He does not stay where he's not valued. He does not attach himself to relationships that have outlived their purpose. He does not beg for attention, for affection, for validation. He walks through life open to connection, but never enslaved by it. Love is one of the most dangerous emotions. It is powerful. It can create or destroy. It can elevate a person or consume them entirely. Most people lose themselves in love. They make their entire existence about another person. They sacrifice their goals, their independence, their strength, just to keep love alive. But love that requires self-destruction is not love. It is dependence. A Stoic does not love this way. A Stoic loves without losing himself. He gives without being drained. He cares without being controlled. He commits without ever forgetting who he is. Weak people fear loneliness. They think that if they are not surrounded by friends, by lovers, by relationships, they have failed. They cannot sit alone in silence. They cannot stand their own company. They need constant validation from others to feel worthy. But a Stoic does not need external validation. He does not need constant reassurance that he is valued, loved, important. He knows his worth without needing anyone else to confirm it. Most friendships are based on need, not strength. People stay friends because they are afraid of facing the world alone. They maintain connections not because they add value to their lives, but because they are too weak to let go. But a Stoic chooses his friendships carefully. He does not keep people around just to fill a void. He surrounds himself with people who make him better, sharper, stronger. And if a friendship no longer serves that purpose, he lets it go, without guilt, without regret, without hesitation. Loss is inevitable. No matter how strong a relationship is, no matter how much someone means to you, everything ends eventually. Most people cannot accept this. They fight against reality, clinging to what has already slipped through their fingers. They drown in grief, in longing, in memories, refusing to let go. But a Stoic accepts loss as part of life. He does not resist it. He does not let it break him. He understands that nothing is truly his to keep. Not people, not love, not friendships. And because of that, he does not suffer when they are gone. Most people attach their happiness to others. They believe that without certain people in their lives, they cannot be whole. But this is a lie. True strength is in being whole on your own. True power is in knowing that you can experience deep love, true connection, and still walk away if you need to. I trained myself to love without dependence, to care without attachment, to experience relationships without letting them define me. And because of that, I do not suffer when people leave. I do not break when friendships end. I do not fear loss. I do not need anyone. I choose them. And that is the difference. Most people love from a place of need. They think they must hold on tightly, that they must fight to keep people close. They believe that attachment equals love, that dependence equals connection. But a Stoic understands that true love is freedom. True love does not require control, possession, or fear. True love exists without chains. Weak people let emotions lead them. They stay in broken relationships because they are afraid of moving on. They stay in toxic friendships because they do not want to be alone. They refuse to accept reality, clinging to people who no longer belong in their lives. But a Stoic never clings. A Stoic never begs. A Stoic never forces something that no longer fits. He accepts reality as it is, not as he wishes it to be. Most people will never understand this. They will always fear loss. They will always let relationships control them. They will always let love weaken them instead of strengthen them. But a Stoic knows the truth. To love without fear, to connect without attachment, to walk away without suffering, that is true mastery. I have seen people lose themselves in love. I have seen friendships destroy people. I have seen loss break even the strongest minds. And every time, it was because they failed to understand one thing. Nothing is permanent. Nothing belongs to you forever. Nothing can be held onto without consequence. The more you cling, the more you suffer. The more you attach, the more you set yourself up for pain. A Stoic does not avoid relationships. He experiences them fully, but he never depends on them. He never lets his happiness be controlled by another person. He never puts his identity in someone else's hands. And because of that, he is never broken by loss. Most people believe that to love deeply, you must be vulnerable. You must open yourself completely. You must risk destruction. But a Stoic loves without fragility. He experiences without fear. He connects without losing himself. And because of that, he's untouchable. Love, friendship, loss. These are the things that control most people. These are the things that make even the strongest minds weak. But a Stoic masters them instead of being mastered by them. And when you understand this, when you train yourself to experience without attachment, when you condition yourself to care without dependence, you will be free in a way most people will never know. If you have trained yourself to love without dependence, to experience deep relationships without being weakened by them, then you are already stronger than most. But there is one truth that no attachment, no friendship, no love can protect you from death. The final reality, the great equalizer, the one thing no one can escape. Weak people live as if death is far away. They distract themselves from it. They avoid thinking about it. They pretend that they have all the time in the world. And because of this, they waste their lives. They postpone action. They delay their dreams. They live without urgency, without purpose, without fire. But a Stoic does the opposite. A Stoic embraces death daily. A Stoic uses death as a weapon, as fuel, as a reminder of what truly matters. Most people are afraid of death. They fear its finality, its unpredictability, its cold indifference. They do everything they can to push it out of their minds. They fill their days with distractions, as if ignoring death will somehow make it disappear. But the truth is, ignoring death is the fastest way to waste your life. If you do not think about death, you take time for granted. You act as if you are immortal, as if you can afford to waste years, as if opportunities will always be there waiting for you. This is a lie, and nothing weakens a person more than living under a lie. A Stoic faces death head-on every single day. He does not push it away. He does not run from it. He wakes up knowing that today could be his last. He walks through life knowing that at any moment everything could be taken from him. And instead of fearing this, he uses it. He lets it sharpen him. He lets it focus him. He lets it burn away every excuse, every hesitation, every ounce of laziness. Because when you truly accept death, you stop wasting time. I used to live like most people, postponing, hesitating, waiting for the right time. I told myself that I would take action later, that I would chase my ambitions once I felt ready. But then I realized something. There is no later. There is only now. The future is not guaranteed. The only time you truly own is this moment. And once you see this, once you understand how fragile life is, how easily everything can end, you stop waiting. You stop hesitating. You stop living like you have forever. Most people do not take life seriously because they do not take death seriously. They act as if they will always have more time. They live like they can afford to waste their days in distraction, in procrastination, in meaningless activity. But a Stoic wakes up every morning with death on his mind, not as a fear, but as a guide, as a force that keeps him disciplined, as a weapon against weakness. Weak people fear loss. They cling to life desperately, trying to avoid any thought of mortality. But a Stoic embraces the impermanence of everything. He knows that his time is limited, his body is temporary, his existence is fleeting. And instead of feeling despair, he feels power. Because knowing that you will die gives you the greatest clarity in the world. It cuts through every illusion. It destroys every excuse. It makes you ask yourself, if this was my last day, how would I live it? Most people will never ask themselves this question. They do not want to. They want to believe they have time. But a Stoic lives with the awareness that he may never wake up tomorrow. And because of that, he lives fully today. He does not waste time arguing over nonsense. He does not hold grudges. He does not chase approval. He does not delay action. He wakes up, looks at the day ahead, and attacks it like it is his last chance to prove himself. Weak people waste time on things that do not matter. They obsess over petty drama. They chase things that have no real value. They live as if they are sleepwalking. But when you meditate on death daily, you cut out everything unnecessary. You stop doing things that drain you. You stop tolerating things that do not serve you. You stop living like life is something to be endured and start living like it is something to be used. I trained myself to see every moment as borrowed time, to look at my own mortality not as a distant event, but as a reality that could happen at any second. And because of that, I stopped hesitating. I stopped living like I had forever. I started acting with urgency, with precision, with intensity. Because when you truly accept that you are going to die, you stop living like a coward. Most people fear death because they do not trust themselves to have lived well. They reach the end and realize they wasted time. They let fear control them. They let doubt hold them back. They let their days slip through their fingers. But a Stoic never lets this happen. A Stoic lives in a way that, if he died today, he would die with no regrets. Most people think about death too late. They wait until they are sick, until they are old, until they have lost everything, before they finally ask themselves, "What did I do with my life?" But a Stoic asks himself this every day. He does not wait until death is near to wake up. He wakes up now. He makes his life count now. He removes the unnecessary now. He sharpens himself now. I do not fear death. I do not run from it. I do not try to ignore it. I use it. Every single day, I remind myself that I am on limited time, that nothing is guaranteed, that every second wasted is a second I will never get back. And because of that, I live with intensity. I do not let distractions pull me away from my purpose. I do not let fear stop me from acting. I do not let hesitation steal my days from me. Most people do not have this kind of clarity. They live as if they are immortal, as if they can afford to waste their lives. But a Stoic knows that time is the most valuable thing he has, and death is the ultimate deadline. Weak people avoid thinking about death because they are afraid of it, but a Stoic makes it his ally. He lets it remind him that there is no room for fear, no room for laziness, no room for waiting. He lets it push him forward, make him stronger, make him fearless. Most people will never reach this level of awareness. They will always live like there is another chance, another tomorrow, another lifetime waiting for them. But there is not. There is only now. And the ones who truly understand this are the ones who live with no fear, no regret, and no wasted time. I have trained myself to wake up and see death as a tool, not a threat. And because of that, I am free. I am not controlled by fear. I am not paralyzed by doubt. I am not weakened by hesitation, because I know that at any moment everything could end. And that is why I live with total focus, total purpose, total control. A Stoic does not wait until the end to understand what matters. He does not waste time avoiding the truth. He embraces death, uses it, sharpens himself with it. And because of that, he lives in a way most people never will. Fully, fearlessly, and completely prepared for the moment when it all comes to an end. If you have learned to use death as a daily weapon, then you have already stripped away the illusions that make people weak. You do not waste time. You do not hesitate. You do not cling to comfort, attachment, or the false belief that you have endless tomorrows. But there is another skill that separates those who command respect from those who are ignored: the discipline of silence. Weak people talk too much. They ramble, they over-explain, they speak just to be heard. They believe that more words equal more power. But true authority is found in restraint. A Stoic speaks only when necessary, and when he does, his words carry weight. Most people are uncomfortable with silence. They rush to fill empty space with meaningless chatter. They fear being misunderstood, so they over-explain. They fear being overlooked, so they speak first. But a Stoic understands the power of holding back. He does not speak to prove himself. He does not talk just to take up space. He waits, he listens, and when he finally speaks, everyone stops to listen. I used to think that speaking more meant having more influence. I believed that if I explained myself enough, people would respect me. But I was wrong. The more I talked, the weaker I sounded. The more I justified myself, the less people listened. And then I realized something. The most respected people say the least. They do not rush to speak. They do not beg for attention. They let silence do the work for them. Most people fear silence because it makes them uncomfortable. They think if they are quiet, others will assume they have nothing to say. But silence is a weapon. It forces people to lean in. It creates tension. It makes others feel the weight of your presence. When you do not speak unnecessarily, every word you do say becomes more valuable. A Stoic does not rush to give his opinion. He does not jump into conversations just to be heard. He waits, he listens, he watches, and only when he is certain that his words will have impact does he speak. This is not weakness. This is power. Most people talk too much because they want to control how others perceive them. They want to prove they are smart, funny, valuable. But a Stoic understands that true power is in control, not in excess. If you cannot control your own words, if you cannot resist the urge to fill silence, then you are not in control at all. I trained myself to speak less, but say more, to let people wonder what I was thinking instead of laying all my thoughts out for them, to listen more than I talked. And something happened. People started paying attention. When I did speak, my words had impact. When I stayed silent, my presence was still felt. I had learned the power of commanding attention through restraint. Weak people feel the need to explain themselves. They want to make sure others understand their intentions, their reasoning, their justifications. But a Stoic does not do this. A Stoic does not waste time convincing people of his worth. He does not argue for his place. He lets his actions prove everything that needs to be proven. Most people will never understand this. They will always believe that power comes from talking more, from saying everything on their mind, from making their voice the loudest in the room. But the opposite is true. Power comes from saying only what is necessary, from letting others speak first, from holding back, not out of fear, but out of complete self-mastery. I have watched people lose respect because they could not control their words. I have seen leaders talk themselves into weakness, trying so hard to explain their decisions that they lost authority in the process. And I have also seen the opposite, people who rarely spoke, but when they did, their words carried so much weight that everyone listened. That is the discipline of speaking last. A Stoic does not waste words. He does not need to. He knows that power is not in how much you say, but in how much control you have over what you say. He does not rush to fill silence because he understands that silence itself is a form of dominance. Most people talk because they are afraid of being misunderstood. But a Stoic does not fear misunderstanding. He does not waste time correcting every false perception. He does not feel the need to defend himself against every opinion. He lets his actions speak louder than words ever could. I trained myself to be comfortable in silence, to let people wait, to let my presence speak for itself. And I noticed something. The less I spoke, the more people listened. The more I held back, the more others leaned in. And when I finally spoke, my words were taken seriously, because they were rare, because they were deliberate, because they were spoken only when absolutely necessary. Most people lack this control. They let their emotions dictate their words. They react, they argue, they talk without thinking, and because of this, they weaken themselves without realizing it. But a Stoic understands that restraint is strength, that silence is power, that speaking last, speaking less, but speaking with purpose is what commands respect. Weak people talk to prove themselves. A Stoic does not need to prove anything. Weak people explain their actions. A Stoic lets his actions explain themselves. Weak people fear being silent. A Stoic uses silence as a weapon. And when you understand this, when you master the discipline of speaking last, when you control your words instead of letting them control you, you will command more authority in silence than most people do by talking endlessly. If you have learned the discipline of speaking last, then you already understand that power is not found in how much you say, but in how much control you have over what you say. You have trained yourself to let silence speak louder than words. You have mastered the art of restraint, and because of that, you have started to command a different level of respect. But respect comes with a price. The moment you stop trying to prove yourself, the moment you stop explaining yourself, the moment you stop seeking approval, you will be disliked. This is where most people break. This is where weak men fold. They cannot handle the weight of being misunderstood, of not being liked, of knowing that some people will never approve of them. But a Stoic is different. A Stoic does not seek to be liked. A Stoic does not beg for validation. A Stoic does not fear being disliked. He embraces it. Most people live their lives bending to the opinions of others. They shape their actions, their words, their entire existence around what will make people like them. They crave acceptance, they hunger for approval, and because of that, they make themselves small, agreeable, harmless. They do not speak their mind if it might upset someone. They do not take bold action if it might be judged. They do not stand firm in their beliefs if it might make them an outcast. And because of that, they are never respected, only tolerated. I used to care about being liked. I thought that if I explained myself enough, if I made sure people understood my intentions, if I was careful with my words, I could avoid conflict. But I was wrong. No matter what you do, someone will not like you. No matter how careful you are, someone will misunderstand you. No matter how much you explain yourself, someone will still twist your words. And I realized something. Spending your life trying to avoid being disliked is the fastest way to become a prisoner of other people's opinions. Most people do not fear being disliked because they value respect. They fear being disliked because they do not want to feel alone. They do not want to be an outsider. They do not want to carry the weight of standing apart from the crowd. But a Stoic is not afraid to stand alone. A Stoic does not need to be surrounded by approval to feel secure. He does not trade his values for validation. He does not sacrifice his integrity just to avoid judgment. Weak men want everyone to like them. They want to be seen as good, as kind, as agreeable. They want to avoid conflict, avoid being the villain, avoid stepping on toes. And because of this, they become nothing. They become empty vessels, shifting their opinions, their actions, their very identity based on what is most acceptable in the moment. They do not stand for anything, because standing for something means someone will stand against you. A Stoic knows that if you are liked by everyone, you are doing something wrong. If no one ever disagrees with you, it means you have never taken a real stance. If you have never been disliked, it means you have never been truly respected. Because respect is not given to those who seek approval. Respect is given to those who stand firm in who they are, regardless of who disapproves. I trained myself to become comfortable with being misunderstood. to let people judge me without feeling the need to explain myself, to let people dislike me without feeling the need to change. And what happened? I gained more respect than I ever did when I was trying to be liked, because people could see that I was not looking for their approval. I did not need them to like me, and that is what makes someone powerful, when they are completely unaffected by whether others approve of them or not. Most people crumble under disapproval. The moment they sense that someone does not like them, they adjust their behavior. They soften their stance. They explain themselves in circles, hoping to fix the way they are perceived. But a Stoic understands that perception is not his responsibility. He does not waste time managing the opinions of others. He does not hand over his power by trying to make everyone understand him. He moves forward, unbothered, unmoved, unstoppable. Weak men fear being labeled as cold, harsh, distant. They want to be seen as kind, approachable, friendly. But a Stoic does not concern himself with how others interpret his demeanor. He does not seek to soften himself to make others comfortable. He knows that true strength often makes people uncomfortable, and he accepts that. Most people believe that if they are nice enough, agreeable enough, flexible enough, they will avoid conflict. But this is a lie. No matter how much you bend, someone will still dislike you. No matter how much you try to please everyone, someone will still criticize you. So why waste time playing a game that cannot be won? A Stoic does not play. A Stoic does not bend. A Stoic does not chase approval like a desperate man begging for scraps. I do not seek to be feared. I do not seek to be hated. But I also do not fear either one. If someone dislikes me, it does not change my path. If someone misunderstands me, it does not shake my confidence. If someone tries to turn others against me, it does not weaken my resolve. Because I do not base my worth on how many people approve of me. I do not base my value on how many people support me. Weak men spend their lives playing to the crowd. A Stoic plays to no one. Weak men are exhausted by the need to be accepted. A Stoic is free from that burden. Weak men try to be liked by all and are respected by none. A Stoic is liked by few, but respected by all who matter. Most people will never understand this. They will always believe that to be successful, to be happy, to be fulfilled, they must be loved by all. But a Stoic knows that respect is far more valuable than popularity. That standing alone with integrity is better than standing with a crowd as a fraud. That being true to yourself is worth more than being accepted by others. I do not need to be liked. I do not need to be understood. I do not need approval. And because of that, I am free in a way most people will never be. Most people live as slaves to the opinions of others. A Stoic lives as his own man, unmoved, untouchable, unstoppable. And once you embrace this, once you stop fearing disapproval, once you stop craving validation, you will move through life with a level of confidence and strength that few will ever reach. If you have trained yourself to embrace being disliked, if you have let go of the childish need for validation, then you already know what it means to stand firm while others crumble. You understand that seeking approval is a weakness, that bending to please people only weakens your character. But there is another test, a deeper trial, a place where most people break, pain. This is where the weak run. This is where comfort addicts tap out. This is where the average person folds. But a Stoic does not run from pain. A Stoic does not fear it. A Stoic chases what others avoid because he understands that pain is the gateway to power. Most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid pain. They avoid discomfort. They avoid struggle. They avoid hardship at all costs, and because of that, they never grow. They stay soft, fragile, weak. The modern world has made it easy for people to live in constant comfort, to shield themselves from suffering, to avoid the raw experience of hardship. And the result? A world full of people who cannot handle anything difficult. A world where the slightest challenge, the smallest discomfort, the most minor inconvenience is enough to make people panic. But a Stoic is different. A Stoic seeks out pain, embraces it, turns it into fuel. I used to avoid pain. Like everyone else, I wanted comfort. I wanted things to be easy. I wanted the smooth path, the guaranteed outcome, the painless route. But then I realized something. Avoiding pain is the fastest way to stay weak. The people who achieve the most, the people who are truly unshakable, the people who rise above, they are not the ones who had it easy. They are the ones who learned to thrive in pain. Most people think pain is something to be feared. They treat discomfort like an enemy. They do everything they can to minimize struggle. They seek pleasure, convenience, and an easy life. But a Stoic understands that the greatest strength comes from the greatest suffering. A Stoic does not hide from pain. He steps into it willingly, because he knows that pain is the only thing that can make him truly strong. Weak people think that pain is something that happens to them. They complain about it, they resist it, they see it as unfair. But a Stoic understands that pain is a tool. Pain is something you can use, harness, transform. Pain is the weight that builds strength. It is the fire that forges unbreakable will. It is the test that separates those who will rise from those who will remain ordinary. I trained myself to stop avoiding pain and start chasing it, to see suffering as a challenge, as an opportunity, as a chance to grow. And the moment I stopped fearing pain, the moment I embraced it, everything changed. My mind became sharper. My discipline became unshakable. My resilience became untouchable. I had conditioned myself to thrive where others quit. Most people want results without suffering. They want strength without struggle. They want mastery without hardship. But a Stoic knows that the price of greatness is pain. You do not become strong without suffering. You do not become disciplined without enduring hardship. You do not develop an unshakable mindset by avoiding discomfort. Most people are slaves to pain. The moment they feel discomfort, they give up. The moment they struggle, they complain. The moment things get difficult, they make excuses. But a Stoic trains himself to not only endure pain, but to welcome it. He chooses to suffer because he knows that through suffering he becomes something greater. Weak men live their lives avoiding pain, and because of that, they never develop the kind of strength that makes them unstoppable. They avoid difficult workouts, so their bodies remain weak. They avoid emotional hardship, so their minds remain fragile. They avoid difficult conversations, so their relationships remain shallow. They avoid risk, so their potential remains untapped. But a Stoic does the opposite. He confronts everything that others run from. I learned that pain is not the enemy. Weakness is. And the only way to eliminate weakness is to subject yourself to pain on purpose, to condition your body and mind to withstand more than the average person can handle, to seek out the struggle, to face the discomfort, to step into the fire willingly, because once you learn to embrace pain, you become unstoppable. Most people will never understand this. They will always think that suffering is something to be avoided. They will always believe that the goal of life is to be comfortable, happy, and at ease. But they do not realize that comfort is the enemy of greatness, that ease is the death of discipline, that happiness means nothing if it is not earned through struggle. A Stoic does not live for comfort. A Stoic lives for challenge. He wakes up every day looking for ways to push himself, to test his limits, to expand his threshold for suffering. And because of that, he is stronger than the average man. He can handle more. He does not break under pressure. He does not fold when life gets hard, because he has already trained himself to thrive in pain. Weak people avoid hard things because they think they are protecting themselves. They think that if they just stay away from suffering, they will be safe. But the truth is, avoiding pain makes you weaker, not stronger. The less you suffer, the less you can handle. The less you push yourself, the more fragile you become. The less you seek out hardship, the easier you are to break. I do not avoid pain. I do not fear discomfort. I do not run from suffering. I seek it out. I use it. I let it shape me, because I know that the only way to become unbreakable is to put myself through what others fear. The only way to build real strength is to expose myself to difficulty, to hardship, to struggle. Most people will never understand this. They will always live their lives avoiding what they should be chasing. They will always let discomfort stop them. They will always fold the moment things get hard. But a Stoic has trained himself to love the struggle. A Stoic has conditioned himself to thrive in pain. A Stoic has made himself stronger by embracing what others avoid. And once you train yourself to see pain as a gift instead of a curse, once you condition yourself to handle suffering instead of avoiding it, once you choose to step into discomfort rather than run from it, you will become the kind of person who cannot be broken, cannot be stopped, cannot be defeated. If you have trained yourself to embrace pain while others avoid it, then you have already stepped into a level of strength most people will never reach. You understand that discomfort is the price of power, that suffering is not an enemy, but a teacher. But now, there is something even greater to master, the art of non-reaction. Because strength is not just about enduring physical pain. True strength is found in remaining unaffected when the world tries to pull you into drama, into conflict, into chaos. Most people react to everything. They let their emotions control them. They allow external forces to dictate their state of mind. They get dragged into battles that do nothing but waste their energy. But a Stoic never reacts. A Stoic never allows himself to be moved by things outside his control. A Stoic watches others get consumed by pettiness, by anger, by meaningless fights, and remains completely unshaken. Most people live as puppets. Their emotions are strings, and the world knows exactly how to pull them. Someone insults them, and they react. Someone disrespects them, and they lose control. Someone provokes them, and they get dragged into a pointless battle. They cannot help themselves. They are slaves to their reactions. But a Stoic is different. A Stoic does not give away his power so easily. He does not allow the words or actions of others to dictate his inner state. He does not play the games that weak people play. I used to react to everything. If someone insulted me, I felt the need to defend myself. If someone disrespected me, I took it personally. If someone tried to provoke me, I fell for the bait. And every time, I lost power. Every reaction made me weaker because it meant that my emotions were not under my control. They were under the control of whoever knew how to trigger them. And that realization changed everything, because I saw that the strongest people were not the ones who yelled the loudest, or fought the most, or won the most arguments. The strongest people were the ones who remained calm when others lost control. Most people do not understand this. They think reacting to everything makes them powerful. They think proving their point, defending their pride, getting the last word, makes them dominant. But the truth is, the moment someone can make you react, they own you. The moment someone can push a button and get an emotional response from you, they are in control. And a Stoic refuses to let anyone have that kind of control over him. A Stoic does not react to insults. He does not react to criticism. He does not react to the petty games of others, because he understands that engaging in these things is a waste of energy. A Stoic does not waste time in battles that do not matter. He does not get caught up in emotional chaos. He does not lower himself to the level of weak people who thrive on drama. Most people do not have this level of discipline. They think every insult needs a response. They think every challenge must be met with force. They think every moment of disrespect must be avenged. But that is a weak way to live. It is reactive, not controlled. It is giving power away instead of keeping it. I trained myself to become unaffected, to let people say what they wanted, to let them judge, to let them misunderstand, to let them think whatever they wanted, without reacting. And at first, it was difficult. At first, my mind screamed to defend itself, to explain, to fight back. But I learned that silence is more powerful than words, that non-reaction is the ultimate form of control, that walking away is sometimes the strongest move you can make. Most people get dragged into fights that do not matter. They waste energy proving things to people who do not deserve a response. They throw away their time, their peace, their focus, because they cannot master themselves. But a Stoic does not fall for this trap. A Stoic keeps his mind sharp, his emotions controlled, his reactions non-existent, and because of that, he is untouchable. Weak men let their ego control them. They feel the need to prove something, to defend their image, to respond to every challenge. But a Stoic understands that a man who is truly powerful does not need to prove it. He does not need to react. He does not need to show off his strength, because he already knows he has it. Most people do not understand this. They will always think that to be strong means to fight, to push back, to react with force. But true strength is found in control. True strength is found in restraint. True strength is found in not letting anything outside of you dictate your emotions. I stopped reacting to things that do not matter. I stopped explaining myself to people who do not deserve an explanation. I stopped wasting energy on things that do not move me forward. And I noticed something. My power increased. My focus became sharper. My confidence became unshakable. My presence became more commanding. Because when you master non-reaction, when you refuse to let the world control you, you become something most people will never be: free. Most people will always be slaves to their emotions. They will always let anger, frustration, pride, and insecurity pull them into conflicts they should have walked away from. But a Stoic remains above it all. A Stoic does not waste his time on meaningless battles. A Stoic understands that walking away is not weakness, it is power. I do not argue with fools. I do not explain myself to those who are committed to misunderstanding me. I do not react to provocation, to drama, to nonsense. And because of that, I win without fighting. I remain calm while others panic. I remain focused while others get distracted. I remain in control while others are controlled. Weak men think power is about dominating others, but a Stoic knows that true power is about dominating yourself. Weak men think victory is about defeating others, but a Stoic knows that victory is about being unaffected. Weak men think control is about forcing outcomes. But a Stoic knows that real control is about never letting anything outside of you control you. Most people will never reach this level. They will always react. They will always take the bait. They will always waste energy proving things to people who do not matter. But a Stoic is different. A Stoic has trained himself to walk through chaos and remain untouched. A Stoic has trained himself to never let emotions dictate his actions. A Stoic has trained himself to win by doing nothing, by saying nothing, by reacting to nothing. And once you master this, once you become the kind of person who never reacts, never feeds conflict, never wastes energy on nonsense, you will have stepped into a level of power that most people will never even comprehend. If you have trained yourself in the art of non-reaction, then you already know that true power is in control, not conflict. You do not waste time engaging in petty arguments. You do not let others pull you into emotional chaos. You do not throw away your energy proving yourself to people who are not worth your words. But now comes a deeper truth. Most people are weak, not because they fight too much, but because they try too hard to be liked. They're terrified of disapproval. They are desperate for acceptance. They have been conditioned to believe that being a nice guy will earn them respect. But that is a lie. A Stoic does not seek to be nice. A Stoic does not chase approval. A Stoic prioritizes respect over being liked. Most people live their lives as people pleasers. They say yes when they mean no. They agree when they disagree. They soften their words, their tone, their opinions, just to avoid making others uncomfortable. And why? Because they think being liked is the key to success. They believe that if they just stay agreeable, if they just avoid conflict, if they just keep the peace, then they will be happy, then they will be safe, then they will be successful. But they do not see the cost. They do not realize that being nice is a weakness when it comes at the expense of self-respect. I used to be a nice guy. I thought that if I made everyone happy, life would be easier. I thought if I avoided confrontation, I would avoid problems. I thought if I was kind, agreeable, always putting others first, I would be valued. But I learned the hard way that when you chase approval, you become invisible. When you are too nice, you become forgettable. When you never push back, when you never stand firm, when you let people walk all over you just to avoid conflict, you become weak in their eyes. Most people mistake being nice for being strong, but it is the opposite. When you prioritize being liked, you make yourself small. You compromise. You tolerate things you should not tolerate. You allow disrespect. You let people cross boundaries. And worst of all, you think you are doing the right thing. You think you are being good. You think you are being mature. But what you are really doing is training people to not respect you. A Stoic does not live this way. A Stoic does not beg for approval. A Stoic does not sacrifice his values for validation. A Stoic demands respect, not through arrogance, not through intimidation, but through an unshakable sense of self-worth. He does not allow himself to be treated poorly. He does not tolerate disrespect. He does not bend himself to fit into other people's expectations. Most people fear losing approval because they do not trust their own strength. They think they need others to like them in order to succeed. But a Stoic understands that respect is earned through boundaries, through conviction, through being unafraid to stand alone. A Stoic knows that if everyone likes you, it means you have compromised too much. I stopped trying to be liked. I stopped worrying about whether people approved of me. I stopped making myself smaller just to make others comfortable. And what happened? People started respecting me more than ever before, Because I was no longer a pawn. I was no longer afraid of disapproval. I was no longer dependent on anyone's validation. I had chosen to prioritize respect over being liked. Most people do not understand this. They think respect and kindness go hand in hand, but they do not. You can be respected without being nice. You can be firm without being cruel. You can be strong without being aggressive. And that is what a Stoic masters, the balance between power and control. Weak men say yes to everything because they fear rejection. Weak men let people waste their time because they do not want to seem rude. Weak men let disrespect slide because they are scared of confrontation. But a Stoic sets boundaries without apology. A Stoic does not give people unlimited access to his energy, his time, his focus. A Stoic does not explain himself when he says no. Most people are terrified of being disliked because they think it means they are failing. But being disliked is a sign that you are standing for something. It means you are uncompromising in your principles. It means you are not easily swayed. It means you are respected, even by those who do not agree with you. A Stoic does not waste time trying to convince people to approve of him. He does not shape himself to fit their expectations. He does not water down his beliefs just to be more acceptable. He stands firm, and because of that he commands respect. Most people think being a nice guy is a good thing, but the truth is, nice guys are forgotten. Nice guys are used. Nice guys are overlooked. And the reason is simple. People do not respect those who do not respect themselves. I trained myself to stop seeking approval, to stop explaining myself, to stop making excuses for my standards, my time, my decisions. And when I did that, something happened. People started respecting me in a way they never did when I was trying to be nice. Most people are too afraid to do this. They think if they stop being nice, people will abandon them. But what really happens is this. The people who only liked you because you were easy to manipulate will leave. The people who truly respect you will stay. And what you are left with is a life where you are surrounded by respect instead of conditional approval. A Stoic does not fear walking away. A Stoic does not fear disapproval. A Stoic does not negotiate his self-worth. Weak men live in fear of rejection. A Stoic lives in complete independence. Most people waste their lives trying to be everything for everyone. But a Stoic understands that if you stand for something, not everyone will like you. And that is a good thing. A Stoic knows that real power is found in being respected, not in being liked. A Stoic understands that strength means standing firm, even if you stand alone. I do not need to be liked. I do not need to be understood. I do not need approval. And because of that, I am free in a way most people will never be. Most people live as slaves to the opinions of others. A Stoic lives as his own man, unmoved, untouchable, unstoppable. And once you embrace this, once you stop fearing disapproval, once you stop craving validation, you will move through life with a level of confidence and strength that few will ever reach. Everything I have told you, everything I have broken down, everything I have lived through, it all comes back to one simple truth. You either control yourself or the world will control you. If you do not master your mind, your emotions, your actions, then you are at the mercy of every little challenge, every little insult, every little failure. You will break under pressure. You will hesitate when you should move. You will seek comfort when you should embrace suffering. That is the difference between those who live as unstoppable forces and those who live as slaves to their own weakness. I stopped waiting for life to be easy. I stopped hoping for people to understand me. I stopped caring whether I was liked. I stopped making excuses. And the moment I did, I became untouchable. Not because I have some special advantage, not because I was born different, but because I trained myself to think, act, and live like a Stoic. I learned how to stand firm when others crumble. I learned how to keep moving forward when most people quit. I learned how to silence weakness, kill doubt, and remove every excuse that tried to hold me back. Most people will never do this. Most people will always choose the easy path, always seek validation, always fear pain. But for those who are willing to live differently, who are willing to commit, who are willing to become unshakable, unbreakable, unstoppable, this is the way. Now, let me hear from you. What is the biggest weakness you have killed in yourself? Drop it in the comments below. And if you're on this path with me, if you're done with excuses, done with weakness, done with waiting for life to change, hit the like button so I know who the real ones are. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel because we are building something here. A mindset, a movement, a brotherhood of those who refuse to live as anything less than their strongest selves. Stick around, because the best is still ahead. Now go, live with power.